The government will hold talks with energy bosses over soaring energy bills.
Good morning. It's Thursday, the 11th of August. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel. Here's what's leading our news this morning.
You sure it's the 11th of August?
I wasn't really sure, to be honest, but that's what Q was teasing me.
Do you know, whether we are having a chat and we're on to all this stuff now, right? Anyway, I was going to say, I never know the date. Do you know why I never know the date? When I went to primary school, the only time I knew the date was the teacher wrote the date on the top of the blackboard. And then I knew it. And then after I left primary school... You
never knew the date?
Never knew the date.
Yeah, it was drilled into me from school. Write your date at the top and underline it neatly.
There you go. Right. Well, neatly, here come your headlines. Energy executives are going to be pushed for solutions to skyrocketing bills today in a meeting with the Chancellor and the Business Secretary. That's taking place in Downing Street.
Leadership frontrunner Liz Truss has hinted to GB News People's Forum that she would give those struggling with their bills economic relief if she becomes PM.
The former Manchester United footballer and Welsh international manager Ryan Giggs will appear in court again today. On day 4 of his trial, he's accused of assault and controlling or coercive behaviour. Ryan Giggs denies the charges.
And an extreme heat warning comes into effect today, with temperatures forecast to hit 37 degrees in some parts of the UK this weekend.
So there you are. If you're shading from the heat and you're listening or watching us, you can join in any of the discussions. You can email us gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet at GB News. We do want to say that after 8 o'clock this morning...
Yes, we're very excited. We'll be announcing our People's Champion. If you know anyone else who you think deserves a special shout-out, keep those nominations coming in. And if you just want to hear a really uplifting story, make sure you tune in for that at 8:45.
OK, so what's happening today? Well, the Business Secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, and the Chancellor and Nadeem Zahawi are set to hold crisis talks. They are going to take place in Downing Street with energy company bosses amid dire predictions about the rising costs of energy.
The government will ask executives to submit a breakdown of expected profits, payouts and various investment plans for the next 3 years.
Well, for more, let's speak to the Director at Export Unlocked. That's a supply chain consultancy. Richard Bartlett joins us here today. Richard, what do you make of this summit, I suppose it is?
Well, I think it's very important. I think we've been doing a lot of supply chain issues with GB News, and energy's been one of them. It's been there for a long time, and it doesn't seem like anybody's doing anything about it. So I think the summit today really plays an important part, and really understanding that as the winter comes and we're seeing rising costs everywhere, particularly on energy. There's a lot of issues, particularly with the poor families, particularly with the pensions. I've been doing some calculations, funny enough, just last night, and I was looking at a pensioner on a £3,500 increase in energy per year. Is nearly 52% of the pension that's coming in. They're going to have to outlay, so it's a huge worry. Yeah. So I think what they need to do on this summit is really start to iron out with the profiteers who are making lots of profits at what they're going to do, but also the government needs to take some responsibility here. They need to look at it and need to have a look at what's happening in the UK with everything else what's rising, and certainly the energy is something that they need to support. We're having people are worried. We're already seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, Richard, you talk about 50% of people's outgoings being spent now on fuel. If it's 10% that they're spending, that's deemed as living in fuel poverty. So to be at 50% is really extraordinary. And I heard an interview on the radio yesterday with a man who called in to phone in. And he said, I've never been on benefits. I've always been in employment, as has my wife. We've always done OK and never had any worries. He said he can't sleep at night, and he's actually feeling suicidal because he just does not know how he's going to get through the winter. Yeah. And we're hearing from people like Martin Lewis, the consumer expert and champion, saying this is as bad as it was for the pandemic for people. When is everybody going to wake up? So do you think this summit will produce a tangible result at the end of it, or is it just more talking?
Well, there's always that risk. There's a lot of talk, and our government seems to be very good at talking. I think they really need to outline and really, like I said, you're hearing horror stories. My mum, 88, bless her, and hello, Mum, she worries about energy bills all the time, and she, as an elderly, they leave the heating on all the time. And you go in the house and it's red hot.
My friend, I went into my mother's last week. She's 93. Yeah. And I started opening all the windows. Yeah. And she said to me, it's freezing.
What are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, the temperature was 30 plus. Yeah. And they need the heat. We don't appreciate
Exactly.
that. Yeah, it is a completely different need.
Yeah.
But do you think, I mean, we talk about this, summit, and they've been summoned to Downing Street, whatever. So what happens? Do they walk in and say, look, right, this is what we're doing, this is what's happening, what are you going to do about it? Well, nothing much, whatever. How tough is the talk going to be?
Well, it's got to be tough. I mean, we're in a crisis at the moment with lots of other supply chain, energy, gas, everything else, fuel. They've got to do something, and it's very important. They really have to sit down and really, we need to see answers. We need to feel confident going into the winter, which we know could be extreme. We've had a very good summer. We could have an extreme winter. And like you said, with your mother and like my mum, the first thing she says to me is, got me heating. I'm putting more and more money away for heating. I mean, we're fortunate we can look after our parents, but there are a lot of pensioners that are not in that position.
Yeah.
Do we want them turning off the heating over the... And then that has a huge effect on the NHS. It has a huge effect on everything. So the government really needs to...
Is my heart supposed to bleed for energy companies? Because every time I talk to a government minister, it's, well, we just can't impose taxes on them like this, and they've got to reinvest profits, and they've got to do this, and they've got to do that. Why do I care?
Yeah, Eamonn, let me read a quote from one of these companies. The CEO of BP has previously described current high prices as a cash machine for the producer. The CFO said they have more money than they know what to do with if prices remain high.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And I don't know why we're not putting these taxes on. We're seeing in other countries in EU, they're starting to give back. They're putting tax on and giving it back to the people. And the UK really needs to address this because, like you said, a lot of it is talk. We hear these talks, they have these summits, and then they come away and then nothing happens. We're in a critical position here. We need to see answers that people can relax. Not relax, but like I said, the person who's worrying about his bills, we should never be in this day and age of 2022 in that situation worrying about energy.
How frustrated are you about the lack of speed on all of this? OK, we're in an amber warning as regards heat this week, but, pretty soon it'll be October, November, December, January, February, and it'll be very cold. What about the speed of all of this? We've got Ian Duncan-Smith saying, well, we just can't come up with a policy for this because we need to target and identify who's actually suffering. I mean, he has a point, or do you just, how do you make sure that those who need this most get it most?
Well, like you say, I think this will be talk. This needs to be addressed quickly. And all this talk where they said they need to do this, I think it's very difficult because obviously you have to outline people like myself and yourselves here today. We don't really need that support, fortunate, but there are a lot of people who need it, so we need to address that. And they can do it by council. They can look at council taxes, who's on under benefits, etc. All different things. So don't let them kid you. They can do a lot of things. The problem is we have a government or any government that just sit back. They hope this story goes away. We've had major issues within the supply chain in the last 8-9 months. Has anything happened? Not really. But this energy needs to be sorted out because it really worries me that we're going to have a huge impact on pensioners, low-paid people, lots of issues there. And I think that's going to have a huge effect, not just on social care, but on NHS. So it has a huge effect on everything. So they need to address it straight away, do something, come up with some answers, and let's see some of these profits coming back to us. I mean, 7 billion profit, was it, in a few months? It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Okay. Some of that needs to come back. So again, we need to have a look at it. Again, I did one on somebody who was earning, like you say, your gentleman you mentioned earlier, on a normal minimum wage. It's accounting to about 20% of their income. That's a huge amount of money. A huge amount of money. Yeah. And if they're renting, and then they've got the fuel if they're driving.
Who drives for
it's a huge, all of a sudden all your bills have gone out there and it's worrying, isn't it?
And yet the cost of petrol, we're led to understand, has now gone down. But that's not being passed on to consumers.
Yeah.
It's the Wild West out there.
It is.
OK, look, really good to get your thoughts. Richard Bartlett, Director of Export Unlock. Thank you very much for coming in bright and early this morning.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Yeah. So, OK, the Conservative leadership race and frontrunner Liz Truss took questions from you, GB News viewers, last night in Lee in the northwest of England as part of what's called the People's Forum. Yeah, it was really interesting hearing what she had to say. Lots of new stuff as well. One of the things she hinted at was that she might now make a U-turn and give some financial relief to families struggling with their energy bills. She was also asked about helping young people to get on the property ladder. Let's have a listen.
Do you have any plans in place to actually aid first buyers, both saving and placing their deposits in a house?
I want more young people to be able to afford to get on the housing ladder. So what I'm proposing is that people's rental history contributes towards them being able to get a mortgage which should enable more people who rent to be able to get the mortgage and be able to get on the housing ladder.
Well, let's now speak to Jess Buckthorpe. Jess posed that question last night and she joins us this morning, the morning after the night before. How do you feel, Jess? How do you feel you did?
I thought it went really well. I guess the actual answer to my question could have been a bit more well-directed, as I already knew about the passing the affordability assessments with rent payments. So I thought that could have maybe been more directly answered. I was possibly looking for her saying that she's going to carry on with current schemes like lifetime ISAs, but I didn't really get that, and I didn't want to put words in her mouth and push for it. So, I mean, I think that the rent assessment is a very positive thing and it makes it much more accessible. But I think there's still something that we haven't tackled yet.
Which is, you say there's still something we haven't tackled yet?
Yeah. The deposits, placing deposits, and like how this is actually going to be possible with looming inflation. And I mean, to that she did say that inflation's supposed to peak, which I suppose gave a bit of reassurance that it won't necessarily be as dire as I'm presuming it to be. But still, I think I was looking for more of an answer as to deposits rather than just using the same old rent payment answer, which is obviously sort of like just something that she always goes.
But tell people about you, Jess. Just tell people who you are, what you do, where you're from.
I'm currently a university student. I'm from Bolton. I work alongside my degree, sometimes up to 30 hours a week, because I'm very concerned about ever being able to afford a deposit in the current climate. And I think in the way that it is, saving from as young age as I can is probably the best thing to do to try and combat it.
Are you a Conservative Party member at all? I'm interested whether or not you get a vote in this contest.
Yes, I am, but I can't vote because I'm 2 weeks short of actually being eligible to, because I've not been a party member for the 3 months yet.
Right, so did you join specifically because you could see this coming, or it was just coincidental?
I joined to be able to go to the conference in October.
Right.
So I am 2 weeks short.
And who are you hoping is going to be standing up at that conference as your next Prime Minister after that People's Forum last night? Was it Liz Truss for you?
Yeah, I definitely think it's Liz Truss. I just think she's the more promising candidate. Given her she's more relatable to the people, not entirely, more so than Rishi. And I think her policies, especially on things like wokeness, I definitely agree with.
OK. Well, thanks very much indeed, Jess. Thanks for getting up this morning to report back on what went on last night, live from Bolton. Thank you very much indeed. The time, 13 minutes past 6. Let's bring you up to date with what's happening news-wise.
Metropolitan Police have released fresh CCTV footage of the student nurse who went missing last month. Awami Davies was last seen in West Croydon in South London on July the 7th. 5 people have been arrested during the course of the investigation, but all have since been released on bail.
A 47-year-old man has died and 3 other people are injured following a series of shootings on the Isle of Skye in Westeros in the Scottish Highlands. A 39-year-old man has now been arrested in connection with all of this. Police believe the events are linked.
The Met Office has issued an amber heat warning until Sunday, with temperatures likely to peak at 36 degrees Celsius across southern England and eastern Wales. Health experts advise people to look out for children and the elderly, as well as those with existing health conditions.
The former Manchester United legend and ex-Wales manager Ryan Giggs will appear in court today on day 4 of his trial. He's accused of assault and controlling or coercive behaviour.
Well, Giggs denies the charges, and our national reporter, Paul Hawkins, is outside court in Manchester for us this morning. Just remind us what was heard in court on day 3 of what's been another truly shocking trial.
Yeah, morning Isabel, morning Eamonn. Just to go through those charges again, Ryan Giggs accused of controlling and coercive behaviour against Kate Greville, his then girlfriend, between August 2017 and November 2020. He's also accused of assaulting her, causing her actual bodily harm and common assault of Emma, her sister, at his home in Worsley in Greater Manchester on the 1st of November 2020. So yesterday was day 3. She was cross-examined by Ryan Giggs' defence lawyer. She sat behind a curtain, as she has done throughout the trial this week. We heard about her relationship with Ryan Giggs. She said she felt like a slave in the relationship. When Ryan said do something, I would do it, otherwise there would be consequences. We heard about an accusation that she was, or rather her defence lawyer accused her of lying about an argument that they had in September 2017 in a hotel in Dubai. Now, she claimed Mr. Giggs dragged her naked across the floor of a hotel room and threw her and her belongings into the corridor, bruising her arm in the process. She said she didn't tell anyone about it at the time, but she felt ashamed because of it. However, her defence lawyer said that didn't actually happen, that was fabricated. He claimed that she actually made a bed he made a bed for her and said sleep in it after they'd had an argument. We also heard about the start of the relationship between the two. They were both married to other people at the time. She said she was in a vulnerable position and he played on it. She said she wasn't happy and in a controlling marriage and noticed Mr. Giggs was interested in her. Now, we also heard about Giggs' alleged controlling behaviour. She said he isolated me from certain people and interfered with my ability to interact with my family. He wasn't constantly awful, not constantly horrible. Two different people. The result of his behaviour undermined my self-confidence. I would say for 4.5 years he was nice, and 1.5 years he was not. Near the end it was pretty much relentlessly awful. She also said that in February 2018, Mr. Giggs' daughter found out about the couple's relationship from a Valentine's card Miss Greville sent while he was still married to his wife, Stacey. He was lying to them, she said, so it was making the situation worse. We also heard that the police wanted to get hold of 2 of Kate Greville's phones. Now, she'd lost one in the water while trying to rescue her dog, she said. The other one, she said, she lost while she was mugged in Manchester city centre. The police said, well, you could access that data on the iCloud, but she said she didn't want to because the information was business sensitive. The allegation from Ryan Giggs' defence lawyer was that she didn't want to reveal that information because it would have undermined the prosecution against Ryan Giggs. Now, he denies all the allegations, and the case resumes here in Manchester Crown Court at 10 a.m.
Thank you very much.
Paul. Thank you. 17 minutes past 6. A very good morning to you. If you're watching or listening, this is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
Stay with us. We are off to just outside Balmoral for Victoria Week. It commemorates 150 years of Queen Victoria's accession to the throne. First of all, though, that all-important Thursday forecast.
Hello, a very good morning to you. I'm Aidan McGibbon from the Met Office. Another hot and sunny day for the vast majority. Warm again tonight, but there is one exception. There will be continued rain in the far north of Scotland, so for the Northern Isles, the Outer Hebrides, parts of the North mainland of Scotland, affected by a weather front which is just lingering here. That is draped around an area of high pressure which is bringing clear skies virtually across the whole of the UK. Some early mist patches in the east of England clearing away, and then sunny skies effectively for England, Wales, for Northern Ireland and for most of Scotland away from the far north and northwest. But even here, the rain will tend to ease later in the day. Staying breezy and on the cool side in the north of Scotland, 15 or 16 Celsius. Otherwise, 30 Celsius possible in the east of Scotland, 27 for Belfast, low 30s for much of England and Wales. 33 Celsius, I think, the peak temperature somewhere across central parts of England. Then into Thursday night, it stays very warm. In fact, it's a warmer night to come. Again, a few mist patches in the east of England and some of this thicker cloud for the north of Scotland. 11 to 12 Celsius in the north of Scotland, 13 through central Scotland, Northern Ireland, 18 or 19 Celsius for parts of England and Wales, where it will feel very uncomfortable, I think, in places for sleeping, particularly main urban centres. But it's a warm start to Friday, a sunny start for the vast majority as well. Some low cloud and mist will hug the coasts of eastern Scotland and northeast England. That will make it feel much cooler on the immediate coasts here. But otherwise, temperatures are rising day by day. 34 or 35 Celsius across central parts of England. Cooler there for the north and northwest of Scotland, where there will be continued cloud. But otherwise, the sunshine continues into Saturday and even Sunday as well. Temperatures rising up to 35 or 36 Celsius. Cooler next week.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Medical matters featuring heavily on the programme today. Children in London up to 9 years of age are being offered a polio vaccine in response to the disease being found in sewage.
Yeah, we're going to ask the former Chief Medical Officer at Bupa what's behind the return of the forgotten disease. And my understanding is that parents who've got their kids fully up to date and all of their jabs are still being encouraged to come forward for this. So it's food for thought for parents here in London.
Or is it just more Project Fear? Let us know your views.
You want to take the chance of getting...
What? How many people are coming down with polio?
I'm not taking the risk, is all I'm saying.
That's what they want you to do. 20 past 8, the heat wave, okay? So the warnings are coming into effect. We're going to be live from a village in Oxfordshire that has become the first in Britain to run out of water.
And as ever, you can join in any of our discussions. Email us, gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet us at gbnews.
Okay, now we're going to Aberdeenshire and we're going to a village of Ballatar near Balmoral, which Isabel knows well.
Yes, Ballatar is a very sweet little town just outside Balmoral. Famous, of course, for when Princess Diana once visited and she walked into, I think it was the butchers or the bakers, I think it was the bakers. And she went in there and had a chat, as was her wont back in the day. And off she went, and then paparazzi then flooded the bakers afterwards. And they said to the baker, you know, what did she say? What did she do? And the baker said, come and I'll show you the oven round the back. Took the photographer around the back, punched his lights out.
Oh dear. That'll teach you not to be doing that again.
They're very royalist.
Anyway, hopefully things have improved, relations between royals and the press, because this is Victoria Week. So what Victoria Week commemorates is 150 years since Queen Victoria ascended to the throne. And when you think about it, that's not really that long.
Not long at all, really not long at all. And she loved it up there, of course, because, of course, Prince Albert found it reminded him of Bavaria. Well, volunteers there...
She loved it because of, what's his name? What was their...
Prince Albert?
No, her boyfriend.
Oh, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown.
Yeah, well, that was kind of after Albert died.
Yes, I know,
Yeah.
but she loved it.
Yeah, no, she loved it for all the above reasons. Anyway, we're getting into all the stories this morning. Volunteers in Ballater are putting on a wide variety of activities, including a dog show and a scarecrow competition, all in aid of local causes.
Well, our royal reporter has been there to find out what makes all of this so special.
Ballater, an Aberdeenshire town proudly displaying royal warrants that supplies many goods and services to the Queen and her family. Just a stone's throw from Balmoral Castle, the royals regularly visit. The Queen's even rumoured to have takeaway fish and chips from this town, but of course a footman is dispatched on her behalf. Fly fishing on the nearby River Dee is one of the royals' favourite hobbies. Archie Hay has been a gillie in Royal Deeside for 25 years. And in that time, how much has fishing changed?
The amounts of fish has definitely declined, and in fact this year is the worst since records began on the Dee.
Do you know if the royal family at all are concerned about this? I mean, it's one of their favourite hobbies, isn't it?
Prince Charles he would definitely be extremely worried about the plight of the salmon.
It's actually illegal to take home the fish caught in the Dee. Anglers put the salmon and trout back in the river where they came from. So Archie, do you want to teach me how to fish? How do you do it?
So come across your body.
Yep.
All the way back round, all the way round to right round to there.
Yep. I don't think I'll be a pro anytime soon, but Archie tells me the royals have had a bit more practice than me.
Prince Charles is very keen. Maybe he doesn't fish as much as he used to, but Prince William actually, you'll see him from time to time on the river. You know, when he's obviously up at Balmoral. Prince Edward and Sophie, they are quite often out with their children, which is good, you know, teaching the young ones.
Ballater's alive with tourists. Locals think the Queen's presence in the area helps boost the local economy. But demand for accommodation is driving up house prices. There are several holiday rentals and hotels advertised, and houses for sale, the chairman of the Community Council, Jim Anderson, explains, goes for well over the asking price.
It's definitely a struggle. It's really hard to get on the house and ladder here as a first-time buyer. It's a double-edged sword. We need tourism. We're a tourist village. It's very quiet here in the winter. We need it to be busy and vibrant in the summer.
Down the road, I meet up with Dan Brown from Wild Discovery. He provides expert tours of the wilderness and wildlife. Do you think the royal family draw more tourists than would otherwise come here?
Undoubtedly, yeah. It's a huge draw to this region. We meet people all the time who've come specifically to Upper Deeside to try and either get a glimpse of the royals or just see where they live.
What do you think the draw is?
Oh, it's a bit of a undiscovered gem of a place. Balmoral Estate is one of the most beautiful spots in this whole region. It's got the cracking forest, the Balloch Buoy, which is what first drew Queen Victoria's attention.
The Queen's expected to be in residence at Balmoral Castle until October, but it remains unclear if she'll tear herself away from tranquility to appoint her new Prime Minister back in London. Cameron Walker, GB News, Aberdeenshire.
Of course she won't. She'll be on the phone and say, come up to Balmoral. That's what she'd say. She's not going down to London.
Yeah.
Why would she?
Why should she? It's her lovely holiday.
So very, very nice. Cameron Walker, thank you very much indeed for that walk around Balmoral.
See what you did there. We're going to take a break. After that, we're joined by the wonderful David Wooding and Dawn Neeson. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
New meaning to the phrase squeaky bum time. Sorry, it's just Dawn Neeson's got the squeaky stool. I can hear her before you can see her. Morning, Dawn.
Good morning,
Welcome
Isabel.
back.
Thanks for that.
We haven't had you on Papers for a while.
No,
Lovely
I know.
to see you
It's because I
again.
come in and squeak, obviously. It's the chair, not me, obviously.
Well, welcome to you. Welcome to you, David Wooding, as well. Where should we start, Eamonn? Where do you fancy
We
going?
go to the Daily Mail, front page of the Daily Mail. And, David, this is with you. Burglary, the majority of burglary victims are being failed by the police, but that may be turning around.
Yes, this is Andy Cook, the new watchdog, former chief constable in his own right, and he's basically saying that to use his own words, in fact, that the state of police work and detection is dire. Something like under 4% of thefts, burglaries, those sort of offences are detected and lead to people being brought to court. Absolutely appalling numbers of cases of antisocial behaviour just ignored basically by the police.
Well, the Chief Inspector of Constabulary, who you mentioned there, Andy Cook, says these are not and shouldn't be regarded as minor crimes. They strike at the heart of how safe people feel in their own homes and communities.
Yes, and there's an interesting piece by Peter Hitchens next to it who examines why he thinks this is the case. And he pins the blame back in the 1960s on Roy Jenkins when he was the Home Secretary. Yeah. And he basically said that he ditched the idea of crime and punishment. If you commit a crime, that the aim of the police is first to prevent crime, secondly, to catch criminals who commit those crimes, and then thirdly, to have them locked up and dealt with. What happened is he started blaming it all on social problems and giving excuses for it and putting the emphasis on prisons, on rehabilitation rather than punishment. And again, he then goes on to say that Tony Blair, when he became Prime Minister in the late 1990s, effectively tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. He felt he was more interested in the causes of crime than in fact tackling crime. Interesting debate on that issue.
Yeah. Well, I suppose they are linked. You can't.
Yeah, you can't. Exactly.
If you don't tackle either of those problems, then you're living in a lawless society. So, I don't have the answer.
It's a carrot and stick situation, really.
You know what? I think the front page of this paper actually nails it. A police chief who gets it, who understands what we're all worried about. And it's like 3.7% of burglaries and 4.2% of thefts result in a charge. That's just not good enough.
Yeah, but it's also down to funding. I mean, you can't let the government off the hook with this one. And, you know, if you haven't got the resources, you haven't got the funding, you haven't got the staff, they don't want to investigate these.
No, they don't want to. I get that, Eamonn. But when you've got 4 officers able to go and investigate somebody who posted something online that caused someone anxiety, and they don't come and investigate your burglary, I'm sorry.
So it's a list of priorities, yes. Yeah, but I mean, that's a very, very good point as to what comes top of the list. Good.
The social historian Josie Harris said that if the Edwardian standards of dealing with crime were imposed now, the entire youth of Britain will be behind bars. And if in the Edwardian times they used today's standards of crime and punishment, the prisons would be empty.
Oh.
OK, let's talk about medicines. Don, this is the Daily Express front page there, and they're saying fears that patients' lives are at risk because there are just not enough medicines. There is a shortage. Pharmacists know all about this. Now, what is this about? Is this the supply chain? Is this Brexit? What is this?
The short answer is it's a combination of all of the above, including sort of like obviously what's going on in China at the moment, what's going on in Ukraine at the moment. But I mean, this is actually a poll of done by the Pharmacist Journal, which is the in-house journal. They've talked to 1,500 pharmacists, who over half of them say we are facing such a chronic shortage of key medicines that we just cannot help people. People are having to go back to their GPs to get other prescriptions for drugs that may or may not be perfect for them. We all know earlier on this year the problems with HRT. The government then set up a HRT supply task force. No, look, what we don't want a task force. We want actually the problem solved. And all we seem to do these days is spend a lot of time and money talking about problems rather than tackling them. But the list of drugs on this day, Eamonn, is frightening. I mean, prostate cancer drugs, you know, antipsychotic drugs. These are not drugs, I mean, no drugs are drugs you can mess around with, obviously, but these are actually serious problems that people are facing. They need help with. And they are just, it's a combination, as you said, Eamonn, quite rightly, of everything. I mean, it's the supply chain issues. It's actually across Europe, it's across the world. It's not just this country. I mean, obviously, Brexit is a part of it, but it's not the whole story.
I think the pandemic was a bigger part because
of course
that really
it is.
did interrupt, and people were left at home, and there were issues relating
Yeah,
from
well,
that.
we're seeing the monkeypox vaccine in short supply, aren't we? We're seeing epidurals in short supply. It's also apparently antihistamine, migraine treatments, ulcer treatments for mouth ulcers, a certain brand of insulin, a type of inhaler. I mean...
It's a frightening list of drugs, but I think David's right. I mean, you know, so many people during the pandemic didn't bothering their GPs and their hospitals because they were worried to do so because of the pandemic. And now suddenly there's this rush going to the chemist and saying, I need help with this and that. And the supply chain just isn't set up for it at the moment because of all the global issues we've just discussed.
And where it really gets worrying if there's no alternative. If the chemists are saying we haven't got a plan B for this, that is a big thing. If it's affecting you, let us know about that today. gbviews@gbnews.uk. You can tweet us at GB News.
David, let's talk about the wildfire warning spread really now across the whole of southern England. No surprise as we're heading into a weekend of some forecasts of, 37 degrees. Yes. This is the front of the Telegraph.
Yes, they've done a page one and a spread inside, a massive risk, exceptional risk, as it says in the headline, warnings from the fire chiefs. An area, as you can see on that map, from Nottinghamshire right down to Sussex, and going out to as far as, I think it's Abergavenny in Wales, right over to the east coast, close to Great Yarmouth. And all that area is in red, is exposed as a risk area. So things are being done, such as precautions, such as banning firework displays, sprinklers, sparklers which are used at weddings, barbecues, and you know, the stores have stopped selling these portable barbecue, these throwaway barbecues, because people might go into the countryside and cause the...
Cigarette butts, please don't throw any cigarette butts out the window of your car, or if you're on a walk with your dog, just don't do it.
There's even a chance if you've got a catalytic converter on a car and you drive over a grassy area in the countryside, that could create sparks, which cause...
You're lucky if you have a catalytic converter in a car, because that's another great one for these thieves that nobody catches. They love a bit of catalytic converting going on. They hike your car up.
Very good point. Yeah.
Yes, very true. I think also, Dawn, that maybe in the future it'll lead to the way house planning permission is actually given. It used to be a nice thing to be surrounded by trees, and deciduous trees and things are all very nice. We're surrounded by scaldy, scabby, dried out conifers. And I go not from our garden, but from a neighbour's garden, and I thought, if they go up, your house goes with it.
Of course, no, absolutely. And it's like, you know, talking about the planning permission, the other issue with this is like when we do have winter and it starts raining heavily again, we're obviously going to have the floods. It's like building houses on floodplains, and then we're surprised when they flood.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, your point about the dry conditions is you hope people would use common sense. You hope people wouldn't start a barbecue. And I was watching a news report on a channel that may remain nameless the other day, where they're saying, look how dry these conditions are. And they demonstrated how dry the conditions were by setting fire to a piece of grass. Hello,
Yeah.
kids, just in case you weren't aware of how this
Yeah.
happened, this is how it happened. It's
Yeah.
insane.
A lot of kids are involved in thinking that's fun as well.
But just, it wasn't that long ago, a few weeks back, where was it the Essex-North London border?
yes.
A whole terrace of houses
Yes.
went up in flames.
Yes, yeah.
People were evacuated from the whole village because they were backing onto grassland and there was a wildfire.
And that was a compost
In my
heap as
lifetime,
well.
I can't remember
No,
wildfires.
But that was a compost
encroaching.
heap that triggered that as well, Isabel, which is sort of like, it was literally self-combustion. No one set fire to anything, it just happened.
Yeah.
So
Miracle no one's killed in that.
OK, let's continue the happy news as we go to the front page of the Daily Star. David, what are they reporting on?
This is Dawn.
This is Dawn.
Oh, it's Dawn, sorry.
You can identify as me if you want, David. I don't mind this morning. Yeah, this is the Daily Star, and they have done Night of the Living Dread by zombieing up our current leader and our potential leaders. But it's an interview with money guru Martin Lewis, who's warned that the zombie government faces a national crisis over energy bills. And, everything he's saying is quite right. I mean, we are all worried about paying our bills. If you've been discussing already on the show, energy prices are going up, forecast to hit over £4,000. Energy cap is going up every 2 months, so therefore it's not a cap, it's just almost like a limit, isn't it? That's a statute. But, I mean, the problem I have with Martin at the moment, and I agree with everything he's saying, is he used to be the voice of reason and offering support and advice to people that were worried. And now all I'm getting from him is people, is making people more worried about things.
But Dawn, I heard him talking about this, and he said that he made his name and his career based on giving people money-saving tips.
Yes.
He says it's gone well beyond money-saving tips. Nothing that he is able to come up with is being able to save a few quid so that you can spend elsewhere. But this is about being able to stay on the breadline.
No, absolutely. I completely get what he's saying, but the language he's using, as Eamonn quite rightly said, every page one today, it's like, it is doom and gloom. And I just feel like, if he was a bit more, not supportive even, but a bit more
Boosterism, that's what our politicians do. I mean, surely he's almost become the voice of... he's built up a reputation, people trust him, that's what we're hearing, isn't it? And so, and he's even offered his services to draw up plans to whoever takes over, which I understand the Treasury are now, or I think it's Simon Clarke, Chief Secretary to the Treasury, is drawing up plans for whoever takes over, which at least makes you think, thank goodness, something's actually being considered.
Hurry up, though, don't you?
Yeah,
and
what's
everyone
the
watching
wait?
this morning, it's like, just get on with it.
But you see, that's where I suppose Martin Lewis cuts through here, because he just says what needs to be done. The problem with government is it's the system and it's the process, and it's, as you just said earlier, inquiries into this and that and whatever. Yes. And just how long it takes to actually get something done. And the thing is, David, the impression that we have people running government, running local councils and whatever, that just are not in touch with their electorate, that just are not in touch with real life.
That's true. I mean, this is one of the criticisms Rishi Sunak's having to bat off at the moment, is that, he's not one of us. And they live in a bubble, some of these politicians. I mean, not all of them. Some of them are very well connected with their constituents, but there is that perception that politicians don't get it because they don't have to put up with what
It was interesting, when I described Martin Lewis as sort of acting up and becoming the opposition, we haven't heard anything from Labour really on this, but Gordon Brown has almost been taking the role of Sir Keir Starmer, and he made this quote, it's on the front of The Guardian this morning: "Time and tide wait for no one, neither do crises. They don't take holidays and they don't politely hang fire, certainly not to suit the convenience of a departing PM and the whims of two potential successors." And it does feel now like this leadership contest is a bit self-indulgent, isn't it?
Well, yes, I have to say, I've heard a lot of people say this.
Yeah, and you don't agree?
Well, I do agree with you, but everybody was saying this months ago when the Labour Party in particular, and some critics of Boris within his own party, and some sections of the media were going hammer and tongs after Boris Johnson. And people said, the last thing we want is the distraction of a beauty contest, which would drag on for weeks. At the moment, we've got a war in Ukraine, we've got a cost of living crisis and energy bills rocketing. Let leave Boris where he is and decide about this at a later time. And of course, now Keir Starmer and his team have got what they wanted. They've removed Boris Johnson. You hear some of them saying, well, this is a distraction from what's going on. Why can't we get on with it? Well, they brought this about.
And if they could have done it more quickly. They could have had a shorter.
Well, maybe, but there's the democratic process to go through. And
8 weeks seems excessive.
But if we had a general election, which some sections are calling for as well. It will be even worse.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's got to go through process.
Oh, I'm with Doris from Bristol, or whatever her name was on this
No,
one.
we don't
Not
want
another
another
one.
action.
Oh, my God.
I remember,
Oh,
not
don't-
another
don't
one.
rule it out.
That was so funny. Oh, dear.
Okay,
right.
so we're talking about the Daily Mail now, David. This is you, illegal weapons sold online in Britain.
Yes, this is a shocker. eBay, another of these sales, a Which study by the consumer magazine Which has looked at the sales of these knives. You can buy them, zombie knives and knuckle dusters and swords, for as little as 49p online. If these got into the hands of criminals, the results could be absolutely catastrophic.
Whose hands are they supposed to get into that are safe?
Collectors, allegedly.
So people collect knuckle dusters, right? What do they do? Hang them in a frame or something on the wall? I mean, flick knives.
Exactly.
I really, when I see these things, they're going to have to tighten up the rules. Why are they being sold in the first place? Why would you want a knuckle duster except to smash somebody's face in?
Well, exactly. It's beyond belief. There's, we've got a knife crime epidemic in this country. I think 41,000 cases, and there were about 30 teenagers killed last year. And the government have been constantly cracking down on this. And yet we now found out, while shops are banned from doing it, again, the internet is the one where you can just go out and get what you want. Now, there may be some connectors of ceremonial swords and so forth, but as you rightly say, Eamonn, a knuckle duster or a zombie knife, which has got jagged edges, which is only meant to cause fatal injuries, should not be available.
Oh, but you can even get a meal deal on them as well. Something called a karambit blade, which is a curved knife, right? Some sort of oriental curved knife to slash you up with. But you can get that with a paralysing spray in a combo deal for just $13.99.
Yeah. And this is not big money. It's not as if like buying a firearm where you'd have to spend a lot of money and go through all sorts of hoops to buy this thing.
You see, this is the sort of thing I say, why are we even talking about this? If I was in government somewhere, if I was in the civil service now, whatever, I'd be coming in today and I'd be saying, right, sort this out, have this banned by the end of the week.
Yeah,
right, get that.
Exactly.
What on earth stops us? And also, Amazon, eBay, whoever the heck you are, I mean, take a look in the mirror. Why the heck are you selling this in the first place for?
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
Nonsense.
Dawn Neeson, Sun, page 3, so-called woke warriors. What are they after now?
I found the fun story. Come on.
We need it.
Credit for that one. Yeah, it's basically, this is a roundabout in Leicester that is being called the Pork Pie Island. Since the 1930s, it's named after a library that's next to it that looks like a pork pie, funny enough. And this is PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, want to rename it Vegan Pie Roundabout because... Oh, come on, it's a fun story. Because vegans are upset. Come on, it's fun.
Oh,
it's insane. Look, I mean,
it's just vegans are upset. It's people who wake up in the morning, here on this Thursday morning, this beautiful sunny Thursday morning, and they wake up and they switch on the telly or the radio or they open up their computer and they say, I want to be upset. I want to be annoyed. I want to find something to complain about. Let's complain about a roundabout in Leicestershire called Pork Pie
Island.
Pork Pie Island.
And let's rename it what?
Vegan Pie Island.
Oh,
But do you know what? The Sun's headline is just magic. Pride and Prejudice.
It's great, isn't it?
They nailed that. I love it.
It's great.
Yeah, there's other stories that I'd love to talk about
talking of
next
pies.
time around. I want to talk about this beautiful young girl, Sarah Salmon, who was killed in that gas explosion early in the week on Monday, and just a beautiful, beautiful looking child. And how on earth did that happen? How did that happen? We want to know about that. And also, Jerry Hall, right?
Story.
Mystery as Jerry Hall withdraws her divorce papers against Rupert
Is
Murdoch.
it back on? They're back together?
Yeah.
Well, they're not, doesn't
We will
seem...
have more on that one later.
Will we?
We have the inside gossip.
OK, well, we will be tuning in up home. Make sure you tune in for that at 7:30, 7:35, something
But
like that.
I know what you were adhering to. You were talking
the pie
about the
story
pie
about the
story.
tooth.
What did I do?
I don't know
with
which
the pie
paper that was
story?
in.
Neither do I. I've
Sun,
forgotten.
page 3.
What?
Sun, page
No,
3.
not the Pride and Prejudice one.
Oh,
It
no.
was a column.
Basically, there was a man who was tucking into a Fray Bentus pie, and he bit down hard, and there was a molar tooth.
Oh.
Well, I would like to think, I mean, obviously Fray Bento said we will investigate, but I'd like to think it wasn't a tooth, that it was just a big bit of bone or something as part of the...
You think that, Eamonn, yeah. Apologies if you're having breakfast right now.
Yes. But you just... I mean, what's the worst thing you've ever found in food?
I've definitely had a couple of caterpillars in a bag of lettuce.
A couple of what?
Caterpillars, yeah, over the years.
Hairs?
Yeah, flickering around.
Not just hairs.
Oh.
Hairs.
You know, those...
Hairs.
Yes,
Those
you know,
hairs.
those sort
The
of...
hairs that you definitely know.
Yes, that shouldn't be on your head.
No.
Oh, my
Yeah.
good grief,
Yeah,
Eamonn.
all of
Got
those.
to 7:49.
What was that in? What food?
A sandwich.
Oh!
Just make someone must have scratched themselves and then put the mayonnaise on.
Okay, right, okie dokie.
Enjoy that breakfast.
See you guys in 40 minutes' time. We're going to bring you up to date with what's happening news-wise.
One person's dead and 3 have been injured after a series of shootings on the Isle of Skye in West Ross. The incidents are being treated as linked, and a 39-year-old man has been arrested in connection with them.
The Metropolitan Police have released fresh footage of a student nurse who went missing last month. Owami Davis was last seen in West Croydon in South London on July 7th. 5 people have been arrested during the course of the investigation, but all have since been released on bail.
The Met Office has issued an amber heat warning until Sunday, with temperatures likely to peak at 37 degrees in some parts of the country. The hot, dry weather means the threat of wildfires spreading across parts of southern England poses an unprecedented risk to homes and countryside.
Look, we've touched upon this already, and now we're going to discuss it. This is about children in London, living in Greater London, up to 9 years of age, are going to be offered a polio vaccine. The virus was detected in sewage, and the significance of that is what, Isabel?
Well, I mean, talk to a doctor about it all, but essentially there's the risk of paralysis from polio.
What they're detecting is that it's actually in
so one of the
people's
first
systems.
symptoms of polio is having a tummy upset, and so they're saying that the fact that they've noticed this in the sewage indicates perhaps now that it's in the population. But look, I'm not the expert. Let's talk to Dr. Andrew Vallance-Owen, former medical director and chief medical officer of Bupa. Am I right in thinking then that this? Good morning to you. That the appearance of this in sewage water is an indicator that it's perhaps in the population now, and there's this urgent call now for youngsters to get vaccinated.
Yeah. It looks like it's being brought in from overseas, actually, and what we've got in the sewage water is in the actual virus is out in the sewage water, which is fine normally because people have been vaccinated, but because there's been a drop-off in vaccination and we're now seeing it back in the country for the first time since 1984 was our last case, there's a real worry because the inactivated virus can actually change into the full virus, and that's what we're seeing with some of these samples. Most of it's just sort of the normal inactivated version, but now we're seeing some live samples, and therefore it's being taken really seriously.
So serious now that the JCVI have got involved, the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation, and they're saying that even if you've got children under 9 who are fully vaccinated, they should get this booster. So you're saying, it's not a case of people not coming forward for the vaccine now. They might have done everything that they were supposed to do as responsible parents, and their children could still be at risk.
They should still very much go and get that booster. And we are under-vaccinated, actually, anyway. But so even if you've had the full set of vaccines, about 5 you're having in your childhood, you should go and get the booster.
So if we as a country are doing all we can do, and we've issued these this advice warnings to get this done, should this be a joined-up policy? I mean, should this happen Europe-wide, worldwide? I mean, when you say it's coming into the country, it's coming in from where, do you think, Doctor?
Well, the places where they are still using the live vaccine are basically Pakistan, Nigeria, Afghanistan. They're using that there to vaccinate kids. We stopped using that back in 1984 because of this danger that you might get the live vaccine into the system. So it looks like it's come from there, and there seems to be sort of areas where it's in the population. Normally, polio, it doesn't cause many problems at all. I mean, it's just like flu. You get headaches, neck stiffness, temperature, like other things we know, like COVID. And
so many things start like that.
You know, so people probably haven't realised they've got this benign version. But we're now seeing, as I say, the more serious version, and you can get paralysis. I mean, my mother was one of the last people in 1957 to get polio.
Yeah.
She was away for 6 months, came back in a wheelchair, and spent the rest of her life disabled. It's a serious illness.
But
serious illness.
But Andrew, you may, like me, remember. I'm sorry to hear about your mum, and obviously it's very personal to you. Then this whole campaign. But I remember being at school, and I think we got our vaccination on a sugar lump or something like that. But we remember seeing people who were in calipers or wheelchairs or whatever. So in the 60s, it wasn't uncommon to see the side effects of polio.
I gather there are still about 120,000 people in the country who still have the effects of polio. That sugar lump you were talking about was the live vaccine. We were all being given that live vaccine, attenuated or weakened vaccine. It was only when we realised the problems with it that they went back to the injections again to avoid that problem, which has now come in, we think, from outside the country.
Right, now that's a really important point. So should parents have any concerns about the safety of the vaccine?
Not at all. No, this vaccine has been proved effective. This is the one which really was the first one that was discovered back in 1956. It almost eradicated polio around the whole world. The slightly less safe one has been very effective as well, but it has these side effects, and that's why people have pulled off from using it.
So we're talking about Greater London. You're not necessarily talking about Manchester or Aberdeen or Belfast or whatever you're saying. At the moment, this is a problem in London, and just to parents who would be watching today, what would your message be?
My message would be, if you're in London, where we found this in the wastewater, you really should get your children 10 or under the age of 10 vaccinated with this booster, even if they've had, as Isabel said earlier on, the full weight of vaccinations. Get that booster, make sure you're absolutely safe.
Yeah, and I suppose that protects them from paralysis and all the horrible consequences, but also has that benefit of increasing herd immunity, so there's a benefit for everyone
Absolutely.
as well.
We're below our levels for herd immunity.
Thank you so much for that today. We will get that message out there. Thanks for your time. Dr. Andrew Valenzuela, he used to be the top man, the Chief Medical Officer at Bupa. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a break. Please do stay with us. We're going to have more news right top of the hour. Don't go away.
Hello, a very good morning to you. I'm Aidan McGivern from the Met Office. Another hot and sunny day for the vast majority. Warm again tonight, but there is one exception. There will be continued rain in the far north of Scotland, so for the Northern Isles, the Outer Hebrides, parts of the north mainland of Scotland, affected by a weather front which is just lingering here. That is draped around an area of high pressure which is bringing clear skies virtually across the whole of the UK. Some early mist patches in the east of England clearing away, and then sunny skies effectively for England, Wales, for Northern Ireland, and for most of Scotland away from the far north and northwest. But even here, the rain will tend to ease later in the day. Staying breezy and on the cool side in the north of Scotland, 15 or 16 Celsius. Otherwise, 30 Celsius possible in the east of Scotland, 27 for Belfast, low 30s for much of England and Wales. 33 Celsius, I think, the peak temperature somewhere across central parts of England. Then into Thursday night, it stays very warm. In fact, it's a warmer night to come. Again, a few mist patches in the east of England and some of this thicker cloud for the north of Scotland. 11 to 12 Celsius in the north of Scotland, 13 through central Scotland, Northern Ireland, 18 or 19 Celsius for parts of England and Wales, where it will feel very uncomfortable, I think, in places for sleeping, particularly main urban centres. But it's a warm start to Friday, a sunny start for the vast majority as well. Some low cloud and mist will hug the coasts of eastern Scotland and northeast England. That will make it feel much cooler on the immediate coasts here. But otherwise, temperatures are rising day by day. 34 or 35 Celsius across central parts of England. Cooler there for the north and northwest of Scotland, where there will be continued cloud. But otherwise, the sunshine continues into Saturday and even Sunday as well. Temperatures rising up to 35 or 36 Celsius. Cooler next week.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
The government holds crisis talks with energy bosses over soaring bills.
Over soaring bills. Very good morning to you. 11 o'clock is the time. It is Thursday, the 11th of August. You are tuned in to Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster. Leading the news this morning, Isabel. Energy executives will be pushed for solutions to skyrocketing bills in a meeting with the Chancellor and the Business Secretary in Downing Street. The leadership frontrunner Liz Truss has hinted to GB News' People Forum that she would give those struggling with their bills economic relief if she became Prime Minister. And the former Manchester United legend and Welsh international manager Ryan Giggs will appear in court today on day 4 of his trial, accused of assault and controlling or coercive behaviour. Giggs denies the charges. And an extreme heat warning comes into effect today, with temperatures forecast to hit about 36 degrees in parts of southern England.
I just need to explain why it got me laughing.
But you don't have to explain anything.
Already.
You've had a fit.
I've lost
You've had a fit. Don't worry. Don't worry. It can affect some people. It's like being in church when you know you can't laugh.
Yes,
and that's
exactly.
what's happening.
It's terrible.
Well, I'm sorry. So whoever
Putting me
winds
off
you up
my game.
and whoever makes you laugh like that,
That'd be you. I need a COVID screen here.
You can join in any of our laughter, any of our discussions, anything that's making you laugh. We can't even tell you what's tickling Isabel today.
Complaining about my enunciation.
Your enunciation. You're so posh and you say bow. Bow.
You just don't hear the...
You don't hear the T. The word is about. Or if you're from Belfast, it's about.
About?
About.
Okay, well that's
But
what
it's
we've been
not about.
laughing about.
About.
From now on, I will only say about.
Right, okay.
And we will now be sensible and give you the rest of the day's news. Get in touch, email us gbnews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet us at gbnews. And excitingly...
Yes, we have got a big surprise announcement. We've got a People's Champion today. You emailed us. We have gone out to this person.
Really good story.
And, it's a really good story. And we're doing it when this morning?
9:45.
About 9:45? About 9:45.
From now on, it'll be about 9:45.
So anyway, tune in for that. That's all going to happen. All that to come.
So our top story this morning, the Business Secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, and the Chancellor, Nadhim Zahawi, are set to hold crisis talks in Downing Street today with energy bosses amid dire predictions about the rising cost of energy.
It's a terrible situation, and basically what we are being told today is that the government are going to ask these bosses to submit a breakdown of their profits, their expected profits, payouts, and various investment plans for the next 3 years.
Well, for more on this, our political correspondent Tom Harwood joins us in the studio. And Tom, really, how much of a conversation is this going to be? Or is this really going to be the government kind of laying down the law, saying, if you don't do this, we're going to have to impose a much stronger windfall tax, or indeed perhaps consider renationalising some of our energy companies? I mean, this is serious conversations.
These are serious conversations, but the government is in a tricky position. They're in a bit of a bind because, of course, we have basically a caretaker government, as things stand, that's promised to not introduce any new major change of policy until the new administration is installed. Now, this is following convention, and it's something that the government committed to upon the resignation of Boris Johnson, that they would continue
people are just
to
screaming,
follow
well,
through.
uncommit yourselves and stop following convention. It is a national emergency. Get on with it. Just do something. Be seen to do something.
Yes, and that's certainly clearly why this meeting is happening today. It's interesting to note the people who are conducting this meeting, Kwasi Kwarteng and Nadhim Zahawi, are both supporters of Liz Truss. So whilst they hold senior positions in this government, they also have one clear preference for the next Prime Minister. Happens to be the person who is currently the front runner, if the polls are to be believed, will probably be in that position. So I would be very surprised if there wasn't conversations going on between Kwasi Kwarteng, Nadhim Zahawi, and indeed Liz Truss's team as well. But I would also be very surprised if there was a big change in policy before the 5th of September.
OK, you said change of policy, but does that mean then that the energy bosses who arrive have got to be, look, to save a big fight about all of this, they've got to be more receptive. So instead of putting the government ministers in a position where they're saying, we're going to do this, these guys have got to come in and say, well, they know they're going to do this eventually. So listen, chaps, we've come up with this idea. How does this sound? Do you see it being more conciliatory?
I think what was really interesting about Liz Truss's appearance on GB News last night at the People's Forum, she said she wanted to work with energy companies to bring prices down. Now, that perhaps was a little bit of a precursor to what's going on today, and perhaps these industry discussions where ideas are flowing backwards and forwards might well be a precursor, might well be a way to change the dial before any legislation is needed, saying, well, Liz Truss is minded to do this were she to get in just a few weeks' time. Perhaps you need to buck up your ideas now, lest something like that happen. Perhaps these will be the sort of ideas being discussed now, but ultimately this is the start of a dialogue, not the end of a dialogue. This is the first time these companies have been brought in for this stage of this crisis. So I don't think we should expect any huge game-changing policies as a result of this, but certainly a positive step as the start of that dialogue.
Although, you know, all the mood music, I mean, we talk about Martin Lewis, the consumer expert, saying this is like the time before the pandemic when we were quite slow to react and we might have had better consequences if we'd been quicker. And Gordon Brown saying time and tide waits for nobody, and all this leadership contest is a distraction. That being said, of course, we've got the energy price cap rise coming in at the end of August, which kicks in October. Could that be something that could be tinkered with to try and change things? And also, just whilst we're talking about allies of Liz Truss, interesting to note that the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Simon Clarke, he's now been appointed yesterday, we were being told, to brief whoever is going to become Prime Minister on this new package for cost of living.
Yes, Simon Clarke put out a statement yesterday as well, saying that the Treasury is currently pulling up various different ideas to present whoever comes in with these various different packages and ideas with what they could do pretty much straight away. Now, Simon Clarke is also backing Liz Truss in this leadership race, and he was saying that she would be minded to look very closely at what the Treasury was proposing. But I suppose in all of this, perhaps there was a bit of a Freudian slip there when you were talking about the energy price cap, adding in a slight R, because what happened with this price cap that was instituted not so many years ago under Theresa May, ever since it's been in, it's just risen and risen and risen. And it gets to the nub of the issue. Yes, you can institute a localised price cap in the United Kingdom, but that doesn't affect supply, that doesn't affect global prices. And so ultimately, trying to fix the cap in a way that doesn't affect supply, which is the issue, might not actually have that much effect. It hasn't worked in the past.
Well, it could also be problematic, because I was hearing and reading about the situation in Germany with Uniper. That is the biggest supplier of gas from Russia into the country. They had a price cap in Germany, but of course the costs going through the roof, and they've just had to have a government-backed bailout of Uniper, 15 billion euros. So that could happen if we don't have a cap, and then if we don't raise, I mean, it's just a horrible situation.
It's an intractable mess, and what's really, really
frustrating for many people about this situation is you look at all of the various costs that we're looking at now, the tens of billions of pounds that may well end up being spent. Of course, already 37 billion was being spent with the earlier lesser rise in this price cap. Well, if we look at the capital costs of, for example, a nuclear power station, or, for example, massively expanding our storage capacity, growing homegrown energy, much less than all the costs we're talking about now. If only we'd have had politicians with a bit more foresight over the last couple of decades, we might well be in the situation that France is in now. France getting 70% of its electricity from domestic nuclear power stations built decades ago, and they're in a much better situation for energy prices.
EDF, though, in the last few months, didn't they? So, I mean...
they did, but they were in a position to, because, of course, they've got so much domestic energy capacity.
Tom, quick word about Liz Truss last night in Lee. Your impressions, what you took away of how well she did interacting with that audience. I mean, an audience from the Northwest. I don't know if you found their needs, their desires, any different than any other areas of the country. What's your overall impression?
Well, there was one issue that they had that was very different from the rest of the country, which was about a very local issue they called Lexit, in terms of getting Lee out of, in terms of it being its own local authority. That was a little question we discussed at the end. But on the big picture stuff, we did hear some new news lines, which is an incredible testament to the skill of Alistair Stewart.
Absolutely.
That so many weeks into this leadership contest, we're actually getting out we're teasing out some new lines from this leadership candidate. Firstly, that Kemi Badenoch will be offered a position in Liz Truss's cabinet were she to get the job. That's a pretty significant moment, but also a very significant moment on the online harms bill, this piece of legislation that proposes to regulate the internet. Liz Truss last night said for the first time that she'd want to change that bill to ensure what is legal offline remains legal online, addressing this issue of legal but harmful, some people might have heard about in the bill. That's a fairly significant element of policy. But there were some other areas where, to be fair, she showed some pretty straight-talking candour. There was a waspy woman in the audience who felt that she was handed a grave injustice in terms of the equalisation of the pension age and the missing out of promised money that then ensued. Liz Truss said that she wouldn't reopen that issue, that frankly she didn't want to make promises that she couldn't keep, and that when it came to the equalisation of the pension age, it was handled in the wrong way when it was done about a decade ago, but she wouldn't reopen the issue now. So there were elements there where she was very candid with what she wouldn't do as well as what she would.
Okay,
Appreciate it, Tom. Thanks very much
I
indeed.
just want to mention, on the online harms that Tom was just talking about, we actually have a guest, don't we, coming in at 9:10 this morning. Really powerful story. This is a woman whose son got groomed on the internet, went and met those people and was then murdered. So we're talking about the whole issue of online safety, online harms that Tom mentioned, obviously Liz Truss talking about last night in Lee at our People's Forum as well.
Appreciate it, Tom. Thank you. 13 minutes past 7. The former Manchester United footballer and ex-Welsh manager Ryan Giggs will appear in court today on day 4 of his trial. He's accused of assaulting and controlling or coercive behaviour.
Well, Ryan Giggs denies the charges, but our GB News reporter, Paul Hawkins, is outside the court for us this morning and can bring us up to date on all of the allegations and what was said in court so far. Paul, bring us up to speed.
Yeah, so just to read those charges in full, Isabel. Ryan Giggs, accused of controlling and coercive behaviour against his then girlfriend Kate Greville between August 2017 and November 2020. He's also accused of assaulting her, causing her actual bodily harm and common assault of her sister Emma at his home in Worsley in Greater Manchester. That was on the 1st of November 2020. Now, yesterday was day 3. We heard about the nature of his relationship with his then girlfriend Kate. She was cross-examined by his defence lawyer for most of the day, sitting behind a screen as she behind a curtain, I should say. She has done for most of the week. She told the court that in the relationship she felt like a slave. When Ryan said do something, I would do it, otherwise there would be consequences. Now, she was also accused by the defence lawyer of lying about an incident she said took place at a hotel in Dubai in September 2017. She claimed that Mr. Giggs dragged her naked across the floor of a hotel room and threw her and her belongings into the corridor. Her arm became bruised in the process. She didn't speak about the incident at the time because she didn't tell anyone about it because she felt ashamed, but the defence lawyer said that what really happened was that Giggs had made a bed for her after an argument and told her to sleep in it, and that what she said had happened hadn't actually happened. That was the accusation levelled against her. We also heard about the start of their relationship. Both of them were married to other people when they started their relationship. She said, I was in a vulnerable position and he played on it. She said she wasn't happy and in a controlling marriage and noticed Mr. Giggs was interested in her. We also heard about the allegations about Ryan Giggs' controlling and coercive behaviour. She said he isolated me from certain people and interfered with my ability to interact with my family. He was not constantly awful, not constantly horrible. Two different people. The result of his behaviour undermined my self-confidence. I would say for 4.5 years he was nice, and for a year and a half he was not. Near the end it was pretty much relentlessly awful. She also said that in February 2018, Mr. Giggs' daughter found out about the couple's relationship after the daughter found a Valentine's card sent by Miss Greville while he was still married to his wife Stacey. She said in court he was lying to them, so it was making the situation worse. And we also heard that the police wanted to get hold of a couple of phones that were owned by Kate Greville, so they could access the data on them to assist with the prosecution. But she said she lost one in a river while she was trying to rescue her dog, and the other one was taken from her while she was mugged in Manchester city centre. The police said, well, why don't we access the data on your iCloud? And she said she didn't want to because of sensitive business information. The allegation levelled against her by Ryan Giggs' defence lawyer was that that information actually, in reality, would have undermined the prosecution against him, and that was why she didn't want to reveal it. Of course, she denies that allegation. The case continues at 10 o'clock here at the Crown Court in Manchester, and of course Ryan Giggs denies all the charges.
Paul, thank you very much indeed. And with the time, it's 17 minutes past 7. Let's bring you up to date with what else is happening.
Amy Davis, who's alleged to be a member of a terror cell known as the Beatles, has been charged with terrorism offences after being deported to England by Turkish authorities. Counter-terrorism officers arrested the 38-year-old as he arrived into the UK on a flight from Turkey. Davis was deported after ending a 5-year jail term for membership of the so-called Islamic State terror.
One person is dead. 3 people have been injured after a series of shootings on the Isle of Skye and in Westeros. The incidents are being treated as linked, and a 39-year-old man has been arrested in connection with them.
The Met Office has issued an amber heat warning until Sunday. Temperatures likely to peak at 37 degrees Celsius in some parts of the country. The hot, dry weather means that the threat of wildfires spreading across parts of southern England poses an unprecedented risk to homes and countryside.
Now, look, since the weather's so good, we're going to go to the village of Ballater near Balmoral in Scotland in Aberdeenshire. And they have a thing there called Victoria Week, right? It started, well, when did it start?
150 years ago.
Right, OK. And this was to commemorate the anniversary of Queen Victoria becoming Queen, her ascension to the throne.
Yes, and volunteers there are putting on a wide variety of activities, including a dog show and a scarecrow competition, all in aid of local causes. And our royal reporter, Cameron Walker, is there for us this morning. And Cameron even, am I right in thinking that you might be getting involved yourself?
I might be, Isabel, yes. I'm a little bit nervous, actually. That's the Highlands Games, which is happening a little bit later on this morning. But let me just tell you a little bit about Victoria Week here in Ballater. It started in 1987, which commemorated the 150th anniversary of Queen Victoria's accession to the throne. I'm actually stood outside the train station here in Ballater, or what used to be the train station, which Queen Victoria took to get to Balmoral Castle, which is just a 10-minute drive away. But all of this week, it's bringing the community together, Victoria Week. There are duck races, and as you mentioned, Isabel, there's also a scarecrow competition. So if you just look to my left here, there is one of the many scarecrows dotted around the village of Ballater here this week. It's all very exciting here in the summer months. Now, as I mentioned, Balmoral Castle is just a stone's throw away. Her Majesty the Queen is currently in residence for her summer holidays, and yesterday I had great fun taking part in some of the activities which the royal family enjoys when they're up here in Scotland, and just to see just how lovely this place is for a summer holiday. Ballater, an Aberdeenshire town proudly displaying royal warrants that supplies many goods and services to the Queen and her family. Just a stone's throw from Balmoral Castle, the royals regularly visit. The Queen's even rumoured to have takeaway fish and chips from this town, but of course a footman is dispatched on her behalf. Fly fishing on the nearby River Dee is one of the royals' favourite hobbies. Archie Hay has been a gillie in Royal Deeside for 25 years. And in that time, how much has fishing changed?
The amounts of fish has definitely declined, and in fact this year is the worst since records began on the Dee.
Do you know if the royal family at all are concerned about this? I mean, it's one of their favourite hobbies, isn't it?
Prince Charles he would definitely be extremely worried about the plight of the salmon.
It's actually illegal to take home the fish caught in the Dee. Anglers put the salmon and trout back in the river where they came from. So, Archie, do you want to teach me how to fish? How do you do it?
So, come across your body.
Yep.
All the way back round, all the way round to, right round to there.
Yep. I don't think I'll be a pro anytime soon, but Archie tells me the royals have had a bit more practice than me.
Prince Charles is very keen. Maybe he doesn't fish as much as he used to do, but Prince William actually, you'll see him from time to time on the river. You know, when he's obviously up at Balmoral. Prince Edward and Sophie, they are quite often out with their children, which is good, you know, teaching the young ones.
Ballater's alive with tourists. Locals think the Queen's presence in the area helps boost the local economy. But demand for accommodation is driving up house prices. There are several holiday rentals and hotels advertised, and houses for sale, the chairman of the Community Council, Jim Anderson, explains, goes for well over the asking price.
It's definitely a struggle. It's really hard to get on the house and ladder here as a first-time buyer. It's a double-edged sword. We need tourism. We're a tourist village. It's very quiet here in the winter. We need it to be busy and vibrant in the summer.
Down the road, I meet up with Dan Brown from Wild Discovery. He provides expert tours of the wilderness and wildlife. Do you think the royal family draw more tourists than would otherwise come here?
Undoubtedly, yeah. It's a huge draw to this region. We meet people all the time who've come specifically to Upper Deeside to try and either get a glimpse of the royals or just see where they live.
What do you think the draw is?
Oh, it's a bit of a undiscovered gem of a place. Balmoral Estate is one of the most beautiful spots in this whole region. It's got the cracking forest, the Balloch Buoy, which is what first drew Queen Victoria's attention.
The Queen's expected to be in residence at Balmoral Castle until October, but it remains unclear if she'll tear herself away from tranquility to appoint her new Prime Minister back in London. Cameron Walker, GB News, Aberdeenshire. Well, 7,000 people are expected to come to Ballater today for the Highland Games, and it's the first time in 3 years that it's taken place due to the coronavirus pandemic. And I'm not going to lie, Eamonn and Isabel, I'm a little bit nervous because I've been told I'm taking part in a couple of the challenges myself, one of which is a new challenge for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee involving running with very heavy stones, and another one involves me getting a bucket of water potentially thrown over my head. So if you want to see that, tune in to The Point between 10 and 12 today on GB News.
Oh, we do want to see that. You're not tossing a cable or anything?
No, I thought I'd get a bit cool in this heat, Eamonn.
Good idea. And you know what? I hope you've got your kilt ready as well, so you look the part. You look very much the part and at home in the River Dee there. It was lovely to see. Thank you. Good luck.
Oh, it was lovely.
Yeah,
it looked it.
The weather looks
lovely.
lovely, the light looks lovely, and you think it's lovely. You know Ballater well.
Well, yeah, I used to holiday really close to there, and obviously, you know, wherever you holidayed as a child, I think you always have rose-tinted memories of it, but so much so that my brother now lives just around the corner up near Braemar, so it holds a special place in my heart. But I feel funny hearing people sort of selling the virtues of it, because I'm like, don't tell everyone, it's this well-kept secret. And as you can see from that stunning VT from Cameron there, just how beautiful. It looks just, as you said, like Canada or somewhere.
Yeah.
Huge expanses and
but
mountains
stay away
and
from it.
rivers.
We don't want you to go. We don't want you to go there. Isabel doesn't want you to go. Don't spoil it. Right, coming up to 7:25. We'll take the break. We're back with the top sports stories with Paul Coit. But first, let's get a look at the weather picture because it's going to be a hot one today.
Hello, a very good morning to you. I'm Aidan McGibbon from the Met Office. Another hot and sunny day for the vast majority. Warm again tonight, but there is one exception. There will be continued rain in the far north of Scotland, so for the Northern Isles, the Outer Hebrides, parts of the north mainland of Scotland, affected by a weather front which is just lingering here. That is draped around an area of high pressure which is bringing clear skies virtually across the whole of the UK. Some early mist patches in the east of England clearing away, and then sunny skies effectively for England, Wales, for Northern Ireland and for most of Scotland away from the far north and northwest. But even here, the rain will tend to ease later in the day. Staying breezy and on the cool side in the north of Scotland, 15 or 16 Celsius. Otherwise, 30 Celsius possible in the east of Scotland, 27 for Belfast, low 30s for much of England and Wales. 33 Celsius, I think, the peak temperature somewhere across central parts of England. Then into Thursday night, it stays very warm. In fact, it's a warmer night to come. Again, a few mist patches in the east of England and some of this thicker cloud for the north of Scotland. 11 to 12 Celsius in the north of Scotland, 13 through central Scotland, Northern Ireland, 18 or 19 Celsius for parts of England and Wales, where it will feel very uncomfortable, I think, in places for sleeping, particularly main urban centres. But it's a warm start to Friday, a sunny start for the vast majority as well. Some low cloud and mist will hug the coasts of eastern Scotland and northeast England. That will make it feel much cooler on the immediate coasts here. But otherwise, temperatures are rising day by day. 34 or 35 Celsius across central parts of England. Cooler there for the north and northwest of Scotland, where there will be continued cloud. But otherwise, the sunshine continues into Saturday and even Sunday as well. Temperatures rising up to 35 or 36 Celsius. Cooler next week.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Here we go with the sport and a look at the back pages on this Thursday morning. Here's how they're shaping up. Daily Mail, first of all, the Chelsea manager, Thomas Tuchel, telling his club to secure the signing of the former Arsenal striker, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Meanwhile, the Times say that Chelsea are also close to finalising a deal for Barcelona midfielder Frankie de Jong, who Manchester United thought was coming to them. But who knows where that one will end up. I'll be very annoyed if he goes to Chelsea. And here's the Express, focusing on the possible hostile takeover of Manchester United by Michael Knighton, who famously attempted to buy the club back in 1989. So that's how bad things are there at United. Any of us who lived through the Knighton debacle last time round will take all of that with a big pinch of salt, I would have thought.
Yeah, it's not good for United today. I was a bit nervous coming in to see after some of these things, especially with de Jong and Michael Knighton.
He'll annoy a lot of people. He'll become public enemy number one if he signs for Chelsea.
Well, the thing is, you've got to be honest about it and think, well, he's a player that has got no connection with Manchester United apart from Erik ten Hag. He hasn't said at any point, I want to join Manchester United. There's been obviously lots of approaches to him.
Yes, and he's agreed personal terms as manager. However, my friend, he's obviously a player devoid of any ambition at all. That's all I'm going to say.
OK, that makes perfect sense. Well, maybe what he's going to do is he's just maybe flirting with Chelsea, whereas Manchester United... Who knows?
I'm over it.
Listen, it's a weird one. I'm just going to say it may not be over yet. It probably is, but then Aubameyang as well with Thomas Tuchel, because there is a link there, because from Dortmund as well. But... you know what? More fool him than if he goes somewhere else.
What have you got on the transfer market that's tickled you?
Well, there's a few things, really. I mean, that's going to be the main thing, and obviously you don't really want to talk too much about Frankie de Jong because it's just dragging on and on and on, but I think probably Chelsea it looks like. And also Mikkel Damsgaard, player that we know who's another Dane that's going to join Brentford. So it looks like he's going to head there. We know him from playing in the Euros last year, scored against England, so he's moving over to Brentford from Sampdoria. Bernardo Silva, Manchester City, looks like he's going to stick around. He said that he has no intention of going to Barcelona. Again, there's a lot of brinksmanship going on at the moment. There's a lot of talk around players, but nobody seems to be actually saying whether they're going to go or not. And this is the same... as we're seeing with Manchester United, there's lots of talk about players, but we just got to see how things go.
What have we got, another 3 weeks or so on the transfer window?
Yeah, but it can't come quick enough, can it? There's a lot of people that get very tired about it. Well, what do you think about the other thing is, you did mention Michael Knighton. Yeah. Now, whether this actually is worth talking about at great length, I doubt, but Michael Knighton, and... for those that don't remember Michael Knighton, he was this guy that came in and, as you mentioned, in 1989, said he was going to buy Manchester United. There was the famous ball juggling, wasn't there, on the pitch? So he ended up buying Carlisle. So, I mean, if you can't buy Manchester United, where are you going to go? He goes to Carlisle, spends 10 years there. Said he was going to buy Manchester United. There were a lot of fans that were going, oh, this is going to be great, because he talked the talk. He looked like he was going to be the guy. And this is over 30 years ago. And then I think the story is that Alex Ferguson met him and thought he was quite charismatic. Then he goes into the dressing room and they go, well, where's he gone? He's picked up a kit, and then he goes out on the pitch at Old Trafford, the nerve of it, and starts juggling the ball around, and all the papers are still full of that. Yeah. So really, the Manchester United fans that are thinking, look, anybody but the Glazers, I wouldn't be too excited about this, and I think this will probably go away quite quickly.
OK, let's change sports. The 100.
100's terrific. Have you seen much of the 100?
No.
The 100, it's the new form of cricket, second season. I was there at Lord's on Monday night. It shortens it. There's a lot more people that are involved.
How many balls are there?
So it's 100. So that's why it's called the 100. That's why it's called the 100.
Naturally enough.
What are the chances, eh? What a coincidence. So it's called the 100. But the first 100 was actually scored in the 100 yesterday, and it was a chap called Will Sneed. First century of the 100, of 50 balls. But the actual 100 itself, it's just trying to get more people involved in cricket, because there's a lot of people that look at cricket and think, oh, it needs to change with the times. It is with the T20s, the 100. There's a lot of kids that are getting involved. They've got DJs there, and it's working really well. It's a great atmosphere, not too long. The whole thing's over in a couple of hours every evening. So anyway, the 100 is going to be a success.
Well, it's certainly cricket in weather, isn't it?
God, I tell you what, it is, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Very good. OK, Paul, thank you very much indeed. Paul Coit there with What's Happening in Sports.
Don't worry about United. Don't worry, it'll be fine.
Can't sleep at night.
I know you can't. It'll be all right.
It's getting very, very annoying.
Come to Spurs, we'll always have you with open arms.
Anyway, we'll take a break there. After that, we're going to be going through the newspapers. We've got Dom Neeson and we've got David Wooding for that. All we need is your company.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Right, it's time to go through the papers. We're joined this morning by the former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson, the political editor of The Sun on Sunday, David Wooding. And if you were watching last hour, Dawn was teasing us all with all the juicy details in the Jerry Hall and Rupert Murdoch divorce. It's in a lot of the papers this morning.
Well, is it a divorce?
Well, exactly. Fill us in.
It is, I'm afraid. It's not Romeo and Juliet here. I don't think there's going to be a happy ending. Obviously, as the front page of the Daily Mail, mystery as Jerry withdraws LA divorce papers. And you think, oh, I wonder what's going on there. So it's done its job. Basically, she filed for divorce in California, but only after being presented with an email from Rupert Murdoch saying, that's it, it's over, I want a divorce. So she filed in Los Angeles Superior Court to say, OK, I want to divorce him. That's 50-50 in that state. Now, that was quite an aggressive action on her behalf. She filed divorce papers as he was getting on a jet. She hired a former Met Police anti-terrorism officer to serve the papers to him. And I think Murdoch has been taken by surprise by how fiercely Jerry has responded to him saying, I want a divorce, by email. I mean, who does that, by the way? So what she's done now, she's gone back to the Los Angeles court and said, OK, I'm withdrawing the divorce papers, but for now, it doesn't need to be forever, but she's done it for now. And what is going on behind the scenes is that I think Rupert Murdoch and his lawyers have thought, right, OK, she is actually not going to take this lying down, so we will actually now settle. So I think what they've both done, I think, I know, I want it to be sort of like, oh my God, they've rediscovered their passion for one another. But I think the aggression with which she responded to his dismissive email means that legal experts have advised both of them to settle a divorce and not go to court because it would get messy. And especially seeing as it was in Los Angeles where it's a 50-50 split on property and everything else like that.
So he had a lot to lose.
He had a lot
She's
to
played
lose.
a blinder, frankly.
I think, yeah. I mean, I think because let's face it, Isabel, I mean, getting an email saying, right, that's it, our marriage is over. I mean, it's not exactly...
Who knows what's gone on there, but interesting twists.
So, David, this is a very, very sad story you're going to in the Daily Mail, and for the first time we see a picture of little Sahara Salman, the little girl, 4 years of age, killed in the house explosion in Thornton Heath in South London. And I mean, when you look at it, there's just nothing left of that house. I mean, what an explosion that must have been.
It's a heartbreaking story, but it's also a deeply, deeply disturbing story because...
What a beautiful-looking child.
Absolutely, yes. And the Daily Mail have got a bit of an interview with a mother who says the world is so cruel. We've lost our daughter, who's our pride and joy. And any parent who looks at that picture this morning, as you rightly say, Eamonn, would be heartbroken and feel very, very sad for them. But when you hear the background to what happened, it makes you angry as well as sad, because the mother reported the smell of gas back in July, late July, and they sent somebody out to look at it, the Southern Gas Network, and they said there were no major issues. They could smell gas, but there were no major issues, but they would get a more senior person to come out and have a look. That more senior person didn't arrive, and then the explosion happened. She was in the box room of the house, and so the mother's in another room with the two other children, and she can't. And when she goes into that room, the room has collapsed, and she's lost her little one. So, of course, now they've gone in and investigated it, and they've evacuated rows of houses. Several houses in the area have been evacuated. So there clearly is a major problem there with gas. And so not only was poor Sahara killed as a result of this, what could be negligence, other people's lives have been at risk too.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
So it's, I'm sure there'll be more from this as the investigation goes underway.
Just a week before her 5th birthday.
Shocking, yeah.
And it's like, it's like a worker who investigated found loads of little gas leaks. Hello, do something about it.
Oh, it's really frightening. Oh, awful. Dawn, let's take a look at the situation with refugee hosts. This was such an amazing story when British people really stepped up to the plate, and, when the government perhaps was a bit slow in issuing visas, British people threw open their doors with open arms, welcoming in Ukrainian refugees. And now it seems as though a quarter of those families don't want to continue it beyond the 6 months.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, we really did everything, and a lot of families are still sort of like, being in refuge in this country. However, I think that what this boils down to, it's not sort of like that the refugees are causing problems. It's the rising cost of living is making families that have acted as hosts for refugees coming over here think that we can't afford to, as we keep going on about the choice of heating and eating, especially coming in the winter, we can no longer carry on afford to be doing this. So, I mean, at the moment, if you are hosting a refugee family, you get £350 a month. But it's as you say, it's like 25% found that they don't want to do it anymore because it is just too expensive for them. This is from an Office for National Statistics study. And sort of like 38% say we'll continue hosting arrangements for longer than 6 months, but 23% would be happy to host refugees for more than a year. But they all say, literally all of them say, the money they receive for doing so is so important. I said it's down to financial issues rather than there being a problem with the actual refugees. And it is just sad that, you know, obviously we talk about the cost of living crisis so much at the moment, but it has ripples throughout everything that's going on in society, doesn't it? I mean, even affecting these poor families that are fleeing from the war in the Ukraine. And you forget about those side effects of what we're all going through at the moment.
And that government handout, the £350 a month, that's finishing next month.
Yes, and that's
so
what
that's
that's what they're saying. Look, if this carries on, we would be willing to carry on helping. And a lot of families, obviously, when you have someone living where, unless you've got a mansion, Isabel, I mean, a lot of it's about more than just offering people a room. You are there offering emotional support, advice, so many
problems
things.
with languages,
Exactly,
and all of that.
Yeah,
it's been amazing what people have done. I can't blame them, can you?
Let's go to the Express, and this is about the debate last night on GB News, the People's Forum, which had a chance to question Conservative leadership candidate Liz Truss, David.
Yes, it was more of a laid-back affair. I thought this was quite a good format. Alistair Stewart, your colleague, was really tough with Liz, and yes, it brought her out in a different light. Some of the viewers and the people in the Working Men's Club asking her questions. She talks about using British law to protect the Rwanda plan. And some of her staff were out away from the cameras saying that Rishi Sunak has never cut tax in his life, which is so the gloves are still off a little bit. Interesting thing on this page that really grabbed my attention, though, away from the debate, was the picture of Rishi Sunak's shoe. There's a hole in the shoe. Now, this is a multi-millionaire. He's worth £730 million, and he wears £490 Prada loafers, and everybody's telling us
to a building site he wore there,
and everyone's telling us, you know, he's not one of us because he's got so much money. I wonder whether he's wearing these shoes just to deliberately showing them to the camera,
or is he just working so hard out on the beat, meeting people, going to hustings, you know,
he's worn out his shoe leather.
Worn out his shoes.
Yeah,
just on how much he's worth, I was reading. Actually, he's worth more than the Queen. His personal wealth is more than the Queen. I think 700 and something.
Well, it's not his personal
wealth.
It's
his wife. It's his
well,
wife.
it's not. Okay, sorry, I didn't know. You know, when you're married, it's usually your family wealth. I'm sure Prince Philip benefited from Her Majesty's wealth as well. Yeah. Anyway.
But the hole in the shoe, do you buy it, Dawn?
No, I mean, look, I'm just getting sick of the whole thing. I just want them to get on with stuff now. I mean, I think Rishi is making, on average, 2.7 promises a day and Liz 2.6 promises a day. And it's like, I mean, between them, it's like how many of those, whichever one wins, are actually going to be put into action?
And they've got an election about 2 years down the road.
Thanks.
So will they have anything left to promise?
You're not helping.
Can't wait.
So we hear that despite the lovely weather, despite the lovely summer and whatever it is, people are really worried about it. They feel guilty about it.
Are you enjoying it?
I am enjoying it. Yeah.
Are you out on a sun lounger?
Yes.
Going for ice cream?
Yes.
Yeah.
Work gets in the way, but I've had opportunities over the past 3 weeks or so to enjoy things, and I think very, very pleasant. But I do think there is, Dawn, a guilt with people when you're not supposed to enjoy this because this is climate change and there are fires happening and things like that. So, I mean, you know, they're probably, you know, it's school holidays now. How many people will be heading off to the seaside
Can we
today?
just actually have a bit of a nice time as well?
Yeah.
I mean, not every event happening in our lives at the moment is some sort of zombie apocalypse that's going to kill us all next week. Yes, there is a heat wave. Yes, there is a climate issue we need to think about and deal about. But also, it is the school summer holidays. Let little kids go and play on the beach and enjoy themselves. Stop terrorising, certainly the children, let them be kids. But this is a story, seamless link in the Daily Mirror today, page 3. And 26 degrees centigrade is too hot to handle. That's the temperature where we struggle to do basic everyday things. Any hotter than that and we're going, right, it's too hot, can't do it.
Yeah.
And we're talking about things like blow drying your hair, obviously never do that, and even wearing clothes. Now, 26 degrees isn't that hot. I'm going to keep my clothes on, especially if I'm going around Tesco's. You know, it's not a good look.
You know, if you've got a new build house, as soon as my kids are in the door, they're into their pants.
Yeah.
It's been like that for weeks and weeks now.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, this is 2,000 people, this is a survey, 2,000 people. Driving, tidying up and DIY featured too in the top 20 list of things to be avoided when the temperature goes above 26 degrees.
It doesn't take much for me to avoid.
I was just going to say, Eamonn, I mean, most people avoid that.
About 7 degrees.
Sleep goes out the window as well, though, doesn't it? It's so sticky.
You'll like this bit. The best bit about this survey, Isabel, is that men are slightly happier with the heat, 55%, than women, 47%. Did they actually interview any women in this one?
Women love the heat.
Women love the heat. Who is responsible for opening windows in the winter, turning up the air conditioning?
Men.
Men. Thank you very much.
I tell you, I was reading yesterday that in Spain, they're going to really cut back big time on air conditioning. And when you think about it, again, it adds to climate change. There's a lot of energy and it blows out all that hot air. It's cool in your house, but the energy that it takes to fire up air-conditioned units, and they're regarded as not environmentally friendly, so you can't even use aircon.
Well, this is all to do with cutting down energy use in the wake of the whole Russian problem, but they're saying they're capping the temperature on aircon units at 27 degrees.
Fine by me.
27 on...
What are you talking about? That's heat.
Yes, so you can't have it any colder because, of course, the amount of energy that's using.
27 degrees.
So and ridiculous. Heating in winter, they're not allowed anything higher than 19 degrees Celsius. So Spain's been really strict, but there's been big arguments and lots of backlash about it, and of course making it unpleasant for tourists, which is obviously harmful as well.
I'm on the beach. On the other hand, in Spain, they're also letting men take their ties off in the office if it's too hot.
Yeah.
So boys,
we're going to have to 27-degree
aircon. Boys, you can sit here.
I do
casual.
admire people who live in continental Europe and it's very hot and they still dress, and they dress very, very well.
Yeah, so crisp.
They cope with it.
Jobs in hotels and things like that, you know, all very good, very interesting. And in banks, whatever. Dawn, David, thank you very much indeed. See the guys again in 40 minutes' time. I want to bring you this situation, this developing story in Scotland where one person's dead, 3 people have been injured. This was a number of shootings on the Isle of Skye and Westeros. The incidents are being treated as linked. 39-year-old man has been arrested in connection with them.
Well, GB News' Annie Butterworth joins us from the area to give us the latest on all of this. What more can you tell us, Annie?
Good morning, Eamonn and Isabel. Yes, as you've just been describing, a man has died and several others have been injured in what police have described as a series of shootings across the West Highlands. Now, from what we understand, the initial incident took place on the Isle of Skye, which is to the northwest of me here, in a village called Tarksavik. There, police say a 32-year-old woman was found seriously injured. Now, she's been taken to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Glasgow, and there's been no update on her condition overnight. Now, from that initial incident, we understand that a second event took place in a village 8 miles away. There, police say a 47-year-old man was pronounced dead at the scene. Again, police have said a firearm was used in the second incident. They haven't said about the first incident yet. And then from that incident, we understand that there was a third event that took place in the village of Dorney, which is just off to the back end of me here. There was 2 people that were injured in, again, firearm, but police have described it as a firearm incident. One man, who we don't know his age or any details, was taken to Raigmore Hospital in Inverness. And the woman, we understand, believed to be related or from the same property, was taken to the hospital on the Isle of Skye. Again, police have given no updates on their conditions overnight. A 39-year-old man, police confirmed, has been arrested in connection with all 3 incidents, which police have said are linked, and there is no wider threat to the community. However, they have said that there will be an increased police presence over the coming days to reassure local residents.
Right,
situation. Thanks, Annie. Thank you very much indeed. Annie Butterworth there for us on the Isle of Skye. Thank you very much indeed.
Right, on to political matters now. The Labour Party is calling on the government to close a major loophole in the windfall tax ahead of Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi's meeting with oil and gas giants this morning.
Well, actually, you won't believe this. You got to hear this from Steve Reid, who's the Shadow Justice Secretary. Steve, I was just looking down what you're talking about in terms of this this loophole. You just could not make it up. So basically, look, I'll let you put it into words, and I think people will be naturally outraged by what you're going to say.
Yeah, well, good morning, Eamonn, and I think you're right, it is pretty shocking. I mean, first of all, the government took months to implement the windfall tax. They said they wouldn't do it when we first called for it about a year ago. They finally U-turned on it. But now we find out there's a great big loophole in the middle of it, which is that for every pound that the energy companies, who remember are making multi-billion pounds surplus profits because of the price hikes, for every pound they invest, they get 91 pence back as a subsidy from the taxpayer. Now, that is money that could be used right now to help people who are facing their energy bills rising over the next few months from £1,000 a year ago to £4,500 on average by next April. It is imperative that in the meeting between the Chancellor and the energy companies today, that they close that loophole, because that is money that should be going to help people that are facing a massive cost of living crisis, the likes of which many of them will have not faced in their lifetimes before, not going to subsidise energy companies that are making billions of pounds of profit above and beyond what they ever expected to be making.
I wonder, can you put that into figures? Could you actually give us an idea? Do you happen to know? So they spend £1, they get 91.25p back again. Do we know what that accumulates to? How much that's actually worth over the year?
I don't have the exact figure, but it's worth billions. And the point is that the reason the government has been going slow on this is the government's been saying they're trying to incentivise the energy companies to invest. But actually, the investments made by energy companies are decided years and years in advance. So all they're doing is subsidising the energy companies for decisions they had already made. It will make no difference to whether they're investing or not. All they're doing is allowing companies, I think it was the chairman and the chief executive of BP have said it's like a giant cash machine at the moment, the rising prices. Now, it's a cash machine for them, but it's really causing pain in households up and down the country who are terrified about how they're going to face trebling and quadrupling energy prices over this winter. The government could decide to close that loophole today. Now, from what we've been hearing, from what the Conservative Party have been putting out, they're not proposing to take any decisions at all as a result of this meeting. What is the point of having the meeting? You ask yourself, if that's what's happening. We need this zombie government to get up from the slab and start focusing on how they can help the British people through a cost of living crisis, the likes of which many people have never seen before.
Well, look, in terms of the profits, I mean, obviously the oil and gas companies would often say, and they do say, that goes to their shareholders, and a huge amount of that is people's private pensions. But I want to ask you specifically about this idea of the zombie governments. We've heard almost every day this week comments from Gordon Brown, former Prime Minister, former Labour Prime Minister. Heard nothing from Sir Keir Starmer in all of this. Gordon Brown calling for the temporary renationalisation of energy companies. I want to know, what does Sir Keir Starmer think about all this? Is this Labour official policy, or is this Gordon Brown going out on a limb here?
Well, Labour's been coming up with ideas all the way through for the last year.
So is it Labour's policy then?
With the cost of living crisis. We were first out with the windfall tax. We called for VAT to be taken off energy bills. We called the government not to hike taxes up on working people. Now, we need the government's, in many cases, first of all, poo-pooed all of that, and later on they reversed. What Labour's going to do next week is come up with a full package about what we want to see the government do immediately to help the British people through that. You're going to see that in just a few days' time. And yet the government is telling us they don't intend to do anything for another month while we're facing this crisis. Households up and down the country are facing this crisis. It's interesting that Gordon Brown has come up with a package of proposals. We'll look at that. I mean, the Labour Party is not looking at renationalising energy companies at the moment, but we need a package of proposals that are equal to the challenge facing household budgets up and down this country, because we cannot allow over a third of British households to go into debt because the government chooses to fight each other in a sack rather than get out there and focus on how they can help people.
OK, Steve Reid, good to get your thoughts this morning. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much indeed. Look, with that, we're going to take a break, and we're going to have more on this morning's meeting between the Cabinet and energy bosses that Steve Reid was talking about there, and a lot of that depending on what's happened weather-wise. Here's your forecast for this Thursday.
Hello, a very good morning to you. I'm Aidan McGivern from the Met Office. Another hot and sunny day for the vast majority. Warm again tonight, but there is one exception. There will be continued rain in the far north of Scotland, so for the Northern Isles, the Outer Hebrides, parts of the north mainland of Scotland, affected by a weather front which is just lingering here. That is draped around an area of high pressure which is bringing clear skies virtually across the whole of the UK. Some early mist patches in the east of England clearing away, and then sunny skies effectively for England, Wales, for Northern Ireland and for most of Scotland away from the far north and northwest. But even here, the rain will tend to ease later in the day. Staying breezy and on the cool side in the north of Scotland, 15 or 16 Celsius. Otherwise, 30 Celsius possible in the east of Scotland, 27 for Belfast, low 30s for much of England and Wales. 33 Celsius, I think, the peak temperature somewhere across central parts of England. Then into Thursday night, it stays very warm. In fact, it's a warmer night to come. Again, a few mist patches in the east of England and some of this thicker cloud for the north of Scotland. 11 to 12 Celsius in the north of Scotland, 13 through central Scotland, Northern Ireland, 18 or 19 Celsius for parts of England and Wales, where it will feel very uncomfortable, I think, in places for sleeping, particularly main urban centres. But it's a warm start to Friday, a sunny start for the vast majority as well. Some low cloud and mist will hug the coasts of eastern Scotland and northeast England. That will make it feel much cooler on the immediate coasts here. But otherwise, temperatures are rising day by day. 34 or 35 Celsius across central parts of England. Cooler there for the north and northwest of Scotland, where there will be continued cloud. But otherwise, the sunshine continues into Saturday and even Sunday as well. Temperatures rising up to 35 or 36 Celsius. Cooler next week.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
The government will hold crisis talks with energy bosses over soaring bills today.
A very good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock. It's Thursday, the 11th of August. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
OK, that's the story we're leading with this morning. Energy executives are going to be pushed for solutions to these skyrocketing energy bills today. This is a meeting with the Chancellor and the Business Secretary. It is going to happen in Downing Street.
The leadership frontrunner Liz Truss has hinted to GB News' People's Forum that she would give those struggling with their bills economic relief if she became PM.
The former Manchester United football legend Ryan Giggs will appear in court again today. This is day 4 of his trial. He's accused of assault and controlling or coercive behaviour, he denies the charges.
And an extreme heat warning comes into effect today, with temperatures forecast to hit 36 degrees across parts of southern England.
Well, if you're not sunbathing, you can join in any of our discussions. You can email us gbnews@gbnews.uk. You can tweet at gbnews as well. Also, just to flag up, we're going to be announcing our second People's Champion in this hour of the programme just before 9 o'clock. I think we're going to be doing that. So there you go. We're going to be announcing another People's Champion today. But if you want to nominate someone yourself, you just email us with the title People's Champion, Breakfast People's Champion, and we will do the rest.
OK, our top story this morning. The Business Secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, and the Chancellor, Nadhim Zahawi, are set to hold crisis talks in Downing Street with energy bosses this morning amid dire predictions about the rising cost of energy.
Well, the government will ask these executives to submit a breakdown of the profits they expect to make, payouts they expect to make, and various investment plans over the next 3 years.
Well, for more, let's speak to the former CEO of Energy UK, Angela Knight. A very good morning to you. And we can speak also to the Director of Policy in Practice, Devon Gilani, who joins us in the studio. Very good morning to you. Angela Knight, if I can go to you first of all, there's this summit taking place in Downing Street today. One assumes there'll be frank words exchanged, but there are really difficult issues to thrash out here with serious risks on whatever action is taken. Just outline to us what you think that summit will consist of and what you hope to see as a result of it.
Well, clearly they're going to do a breakdown of costs and a breakdown of profits, and I think that's a good thing because some of this is quite complicated. As you know, we use the expression energy companies, but in so doing, that covers those who take the gas and the oil out of the North Sea and around the world. It covers those who are importing liquefied natural gas. It covers those who are generating power, our power stations, those who are supplying to ourselves as domestic and business consumer, and it also covers the networks and the pipes. So there's a lot of different companies in there, some of which aren't making money, some of which are making money, and some of which whom are in rather complicated arrangement of how the actual wholesale price of electricity is defined, is derived here in the UK. So by putting it all out on the table, what I think that they will find is on the oil and gas, which they've already looked at, and where they consider, they being a Treasury and indeed many other people, are considering that there are an increased profits being made as a consequence of high global prices, that they will look at again. But that, of course, has already been looked at once before and being taxed at between 40 and 65%. The suppliers, the domestic suppliers themselves, most of those are only at best at break even. Where I think that there is going to be some room to look for perhaps a better proposition is in that complicated calculation of how the wholesale price of electricity to us in the UK is calculated, because electricity comes from a mix of old and new generators, from nuclear, wind, from gas, and there's even some coal, and it's been all dragged up high by the gas price. And I think there's probably something to be looked at the additional costs that get placed on the bill for both green costs and social costs, and maybe something in those fixed charges that we pay for connecting to the network in the first place. So I'm very sorry. I think I've complicated in my response to your question, and I apologise for that.
No, Angela, no one better placed than you. You know, you've been gamekeeper turned poacher. You've sat there in government as well. You've made decisions. You know, former CEO of Energy UK as well. Let me just ask you, do you have much faith in all of this? And do you think, well, you know, when these energy bosses come in, are they shaking in their boots or do they hold all the cards? What way? Just give us a mood of the atmosphere.
Well, I think that the energy bosses are in exactly the same place as many other people. And that is, look, we've got this crisis, we've got this big problem that is international, which we can't deal with. We're, you know, part of the chain. And I think that they want to see solutions as well. And the reason I say that is because it's very easy to say, oh, something's a problem of this or that, and go around looking for a culprit. We haven't got a culprit here. We've got a world crisis. We've got a whole series of events that have happened. Pandemic, then the post-pandemic, then the war. We've got high inflation, and we're not the only ones on this. And now this big heat wave across Europe is going to cause problems as well, as you will have known, and some of the supplies where we get our electricity from, such as Norway, because they can't fill their reservoirs up. So, running around saying somebody has got to be making too much money or somebody is at fault, I don't think is the right way of looking at the problem. We all accept that problem wherever we sit in this chain. We all know that something has got to be sorted out, both in the very short term for this winter, but also the medium and the long term. And I'm a great believer in getting people around the table and getting all the cards up there to find out what are the options, who can do what in this game, of which government is going to play a big role, not just in convening a round table and the fact that they do hold legislative power, but of course government has a big role in giving greater degree of assistance, particularly to the poor end of society. So I don't think anybody is going to be shivering in their shoes. If they are, that's the wrong attitude. What they need to do is be absolutely clear about what they can do and what is a systems issue, and where help can come from the industry and where help needs to be taken by government.
OK, let's bring in Devon Galani and all of this. I just want to talk about, the human side to all of this. And we're hearing about ordinary people, people who have got good jobs, people who've worked their whole lives, never needed help from the state, and often in households with both partners are working, saying that they simply cannot endure the kind of rises in their bills that we're talking about in the forecast that we've seen this week. I think we have a graph that just demonstrates the extent of what people are facing. There was $1,200 a year was the average bill in something like April this year, and that's going to go up to over 4,000 in the new year. Something urgent needs to be done.
I was going to make that exact point. You can get all of the energy bosses in the room to try and understand what's going on with how it's all made up, but really it makes no difference to the people who are impacted by this big shift in energy bills. When the price cap was first reached, it was £1,277, and that was only 18 months ago, less than 18 months ago, in fact. By the time we hit January, it's going to be over 4,200, as you just saw on the graph. What the government needs to do, get everyone together, sure, but actually it needs to decide what it's going to do to help people at the end of this. And we've calculated, so on top of the £650 going to the lowest income households, or the £400 or so that's going to everyone, there's another £400 on top of that. That more or less immediately needs to go to people just to cover the 3 months from October to January. And the government just needs to announce that it's going to step in, it's going to do that, and it's going to find the money from making those hard choices on who to tax and where to get the money from.
Why don't they just get the money, Devon, from the companies, the energy companies? If I was listening to Angela correctly, it was a bad line there, but I think Angela was saying there was no obvious villains in all of this. It's a whole conglomeration of world events and whatever that have conspired against all of this.
Apart from Putin.
But if I was sitting there today, I think I would say, right, we've got this awful situation, and guess who's going to pay for it? Not us, you.
So I think there is a slightly simpler answer. It costs the same amount to get the energy out the ground as it always has. And now it's being sold for much more because the international prices are so much higher. It's those people that are, it's those that are getting out the ground and selling it to the energy companies that are making the most money, and they'll happily admit to that. You can see it in their profits. So the BPs, the Shells, many other large energy companies out there. There's just a huge surplus, and they recognise that.
OK, well, Devon Galani, I want to bring in a man who you know very well. You used to work with Ian Duncan Smith, a former Conservative Party leader, of course, who joins us on the line to discuss this very serious issue at the moment. Very warm welcome to you, Mr Duncan Smith. Look, we're thrashing out very clearly what the problems are. The big question is what the solution is in all of this. This big summit taking place on Downing Street. What do you want to see as the outcome of that?
Well, first of all, I just want to make it absolutely clear that Liz Truss has made it clear that we need to make sure that we don't add to the burden of cost of living by having an economy go into a recession, which would be a deep one. So we need to make sure the burden of taxation is lower. That's our priority. The second point she's made, though, very clearly about this, is that, most importantly, she will do whatever is necessary, and the government now needs to work out what the options are before they end up, whoever wins, coming into government. In terms of what the government's doing this morning, it's quite important, I think, for them to understand what the scope of their capability is here. The most important thing is to understand who needs the money most and to ensure that we have the mechanisms ready, systems like universal credit, to target those most in need. We've already got a 15 billion payment out on the back of a previous 7 billion payment going to people. This 15 billion payment actually stretches right up the income, which means that I think had we targeted a little bit better, had the Treasury been a bit better at this, we could have got more money to those most in need in this particular case. And the money is still going out, so lots of people won't receive their money until October. So we need to balance all of that against the need that we have and the new forecasts that are taking place. The peak for this is going to be around about December, January. So getting this sorted early will be a decision for Liz Truss if she makes it, but it'll be on the basis of what the government's done. And they've been working on this for a few weeks, I understand.
I mean, all that's very well and good, Mr. Duncan Smith, but I think you just said there that you mentioned October and people are hurting now. Do you think that's appropriate enough? Do you think, if they can just hold on, they'll get the right sort of relief? I know you think it's very, very important that you target the right people at the right time.
Yeah, the key thing is to make sure with the resources that we may need to have, first of all, finding out where those resources are coming from, general taxation, or is it coming via companies? That's a matter for the government to figure out what the options are. But the second thing, most importantly, is we understand this time who the most at-risk groups are, to make sure, therefore, our effort is targeted straight towards them to get them through this period, as and when we have to make that decision. And Liz has already said that when the moment comes, when that advice arrives, and looking at that, she will make those decisions as and what is required. The key thing is twofold, though. One, we need to help people through the cost of living crisis, those that need it, and that's through support for them to get through, and she's made it clear for that. But the other bit, we do need to see the burden of taxation lowered, because at the moment the predictions, if nothing changes, is we're going to end up in recession. We have to do everything we can to avoid recession, because that will double down on the problems that people have, particularly lower income groups, that therefore will find themselves losing jobs, losing livelihoods, and that's really, really important. So we need to have two things going on at the same time.
OK, I just really want to pick up on the point that you make, and Liz Truss, hinted at this in our GB News People's Forum last night, and that is that she will do, as you say, whatever she needs to do to help those most at need. What does that mean? Are we talking about handouts? Because thus far, she's described that as Gordon Brown economics, which stokes inflation. So what does she mean by that?
Well, what she was talking about when she said and referred to handouts is the handouts were already part of the whole debate about whether we should be giving money out to people immediately. And the question is, if you try and make a decision about that on literally a limited amount of knowledge about where that is, then that becomes a scattergun approach, and that is a bad handout. What you want to do is to make sure, and she said this, any support we give must be properly targeted and measured against those who need it most, so that those people can get the support that they need, rather than just scattering it across a whole income range right the way up to people like you and me, who are going to receive more money later on in October, when you could argue that we're not the ones in need, it's those in need who are facing difficulties with their bills. So targeted support is what she's talking about, properly measured and also funded are the key elements, rather than just scattering money out.
Mr. Duncan Smith, thank you very much indeed for putting that case. We say goodbye to you. We say hello again to Devin Gillan, who is the Director of Policy and Practice and was indeed an architect of something Ian Duncan Smith knows very, very well. That is the universal credit policy. So we hear Mr. Duncan Smith, he talks about there targeting the right people, avoiding stoking inflation. What about that overall strategy?
Yeah, I think universal credit and the benefit system is one of the best ways to get that support to people. I'd say one critique of Rishi Sunak's plan that got put forward was that everyone got the same amount, whereas people living in larger, less energy efficient homes, bigger families, it's going to cost them quite a bit more.
Well, in defence of what he put forward, yes, £400 was going to every household, but there was also targeted help for the poor, £650 going to those on the lowest incomes, which included 8 million people on welfare support.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely for that. I think the point I'm making is that perhaps of those on the lowest incomes, £400 might have been okay for single people, but actually if you've got 3 children living in a large home, they might have needed 800. So there are ways to better target that. I think the political problem that perhaps Liz and Rishi might face is that the people they're trying to reach right now are probably those that are better off. They're also going to see like bigger increases in energy bills, but I think what Ian's saying is perhaps better targeting that support means targeting it toward those that, perhaps are renting, are struggling on lower incomes.
Well, we'll find out when we hear what has been resolved, if anything, at that Energy Summit meeting today at Downing Street. Devon Gilani, thank you very much indeed. We've also spoken to Ian Duncan-Smith and Angela Knight, who's the former CEO of Energy UK. Yes. So if Angela's still there, we'll say goodbye to her
to all
as
of
well.
You. Right, the time is 17 minutes past 8. Let's bring you up to date on the latest headlines. And Amy Davis is alleged to be a member of the terror cell known as the ISIS Beatles, has been charged with terrorism offences in England after being deported from Turkey. County terrorism officers arrested the 38-year-old as he arrived into Luton Airport.
47-year-old man has died and 3 other people are injured following a series of firearms incidents on the Isle of Skye and in Wester Ross in the Scottish Highlands. A 39-year-old man has now been arrested in connection with these 3 incidents, which police believe are all linked.
The Met Office has issued an amber heat warning until Sunday, with temperatures likely to peak at 36 degrees Celsius in some parts of southern England. Health experts advise people to look out for children and the elderly, as well as those with existing health conditions.
Ryan Giggs' ex-girlfriend has told a court she became a slave to his every need and demand.
Yeah, the former Manchester United star and ex-Welsh manager is on trial, accused of controlling behaviour and assaulting Kate Greville and her younger sister Emma.
Let's now go to Paul Hawkins, who's outside the court there in Manchester, for us to bring us up to date. Paul.
Yeah, morning Eamonn, morning Isabel, for photographers lining up actually just to get the arrival shots of Ryan Giggs, who will be arriving here shortly, along with Kate Greville for day 4 of this case. But just to reappraise you of the charges that Ryan Giggs is facing: controlling and coercive behaviour against Kate Greville, his then girlfriend, between August 2017 and November 2020. He's also accused of assault, causing her actual bodily harm, and common assault of her sister Emma at his home in Worsley in Greater Manchester on the 1st of November 2020. Now, yesterday, day 3, as you mentioned, we heard about the nature of her relationship while she was cross-examined, of her relationship with Ryan Giggs. That was while she was cross-examined by Ryan Giggs' defence lawyer. She said she felt like a slave in that relationship. When Ryan said do something, I would do it, otherwise there would be consequences. We also heard from her defence lawyer, who accused her of lying about an incident that happened at a hotel in Dubai in September 2017. Now, she says that she was dragged naked across a hotel room and thrown into the corridor with her belongings, that her arm had become bruised because of it. And that she was so ashamed about the incident she didn't talk to anyone about it. The defence lawyer for Ryan Giggs said that wasn't actually what really happened. He said that Ryan Giggs actually made a bed for her after an argument and told her to sleep in it, and that the incident she spoke about never actually happened. We heard about the start of her relationship with Ryan Giggs as well. Both were married to other people when they started seeing each other. She told the court, I was in a vulnerable position and he played on it. She said she wasn't happy and in a controlling marriage at the time, and noticed Mr. Giggs was interested in her. We also heard about the alleged controlling and coercive behaviour of Ryan Giggs in that relationship. She said he isolated me from certain people and interfered with my ability to interact with my family. He was not constantly awful, but but he was two different people. The result of that behaviour undermined my self-confidence. I would say for 4.5 years he was nice, and for 1.5 years he was not. Near the end it was pretty much relentlessly awful. We also heard that in February 2018 Mr Giggs' daughter found out about their relationship after she saw a Valentine's card that was sent by Miss Greville while he was still married to his wife Stacey. In court yesterday she said he was lying to them, so it was making the situation worse. And we also heard that the police wanted to get hold of her phones, but she'd lost both of them, one in a river when she was trying to rescue her dog, she said, and the other one while she was mugged out in Manchester city centre. The police said you can access that data on the iCloud. She said she didn't want to because of business sensitive information. The accusation from Ryan Giggs' defence lawyer was that she didn't want to submit that information to the court because that would undermine the prosecution case against Ryan Giggs. She, of course, denies that allegation. Ryan Giggs, of course, denies all the charges, and the case will resume at 10 a.m.
Paul, thank you very much indeed. With that, we'll head to the break when Isabel gets off her phone there. What was that?
The People's Forum on my Twitter.
Good. But we'll tell you where we're going after the break. We're going to a village in Oxfordshire. All sounds very nice, is very nice.
Except
the thing is, they've no water.
Yeah,
Right?
we'll be finding out how residents there are coping. That means nothing to brush their teeth with, have showers, do their washing machine, flush their loos. Awful. Anyway, we'll be there in a minute. First of all, your forecast and a quick break.
Hello, a very good morning to you. I'm Aidan McGivern from the Met Office. Another hot and sunny day for the vast majority. Warm again tonight, but there is one exception. There will be continued rain in the far north of Scotland, so for the Northern Isles, the Outer Hebrides, parts of the north mainland of Scotland, affected by a weather front which is just lingering here. That is draped around an area of high pressure which is bringing clear skies virtually across the whole of the UK. Some early mist patches in the east of England clearing away, and then sunny skies effectively for England, Wales, for Northern Ireland and for most of Scotland away from the far north and northwest. But even here, the rain will tend to ease later in the day. Staying breezy and on the cool side in the north of Scotland, 15 or 16 Celsius. Otherwise, 30 Celsius possible in the east of Scotland, 27 for Belfast, low 30s for much of England and Wales. 33 Celsius, I think, the peak temperature somewhere across central parts of England. Then into Thursday night, it stays very warm. In fact, it's a warmer night to come. Again, a few mist patches in the east of England and some of this thicker cloud for the north of Scotland. 11 to 12 Celsius in the north of Scotland, 13 through central Scotland, Northern Ireland, 18 or 19 Celsius for parts of England and Wales, where it will feel very uncomfortable, I think, in places for sleeping, particularly main urban centres. But it's a warm start to Friday, a sunny start for the vast majority as well. Some low cloud and mist will hug the coasts of eastern Scotland and northeast England. That will make it feel much cooler on the immediate coasts here. But otherwise, temperatures are rising day by day. 34 or 35 Celsius across central parts of England. Cooler there for the north and northwest of Scotland, where there will be continued cloud. But otherwise, the sunshine continues into Saturday and even Sunday as well. Temperatures rising up to 35 or 36 Celsius. Cooler next week.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 26 minutes past 8. The Met Office has issued an amber extreme heat warning in some parts of the UK, coming into effect from today and lasting until Sunday. Areas of the UK, such as southern and central England, are expected to see temperatures peak between 35 degrees Celsius and 37. Well, with the driest summer on record since 1976, North End, a village in Oxfordshire, has become the first place in Britain to run dry. Let's speak to GB News reporter Rosie Wright, who joins us there from North End this morning. Look, give us a sense of what this means for that community, Rosie, and how they're getting their water.
Well, extreme frustration, Isabel. I've just spoken to some of the neighbours here who said we're offering up our bathrooms for people to have showers, use the toilet, because it's residents on this street behind me here. And at one point this week, 68 customers, Thames Water said, had no water at all. Now, Thames Water are attributing that to problems with their Stokenchurch reservoir, which they say have been solved, and they've got a couple of strategies to try and make sure that while it's really hot, the people who live here have got something coming out of the taps. Number one is they're using tankers to pump in water, and on our drive in this morning we saw one. I spoke to the gentleman and he confirmed that's what they were doing. But the other strategy is this. On Wednesday and Tuesday, Thames Water turned up and said, right, if you can't get it out of the taps, we'll bring it to you here in plastic bottles. That's not very helpful if you need to run your washing machine. And what I heard from one of the residents here was actually real frustration. They've said this isn't the first time it's happened. It's happened last summer and the summer before. So what really is causing this? What's really exacerbated it this year, as you just mentioned there in your introduction, Isabel, is the dry weather. It's been the driest first 6 months of the year in 46 years in England. And if you're people like this nursery here that had just opened its doors at 8 o'clock this morning, you're feeling extremely thankful because they have water supply, because they are on a different line to the residents who are living here. So today, people will be waking up wanting to have a shower, run the tap, make a cup of tea, and it's going to be more challenging than it should have done. Now, Thames Water have said to me they are really sorry for what's happened. They're doing their best to make sure that people have got some water, but there still very much might be low pressure, particularly in the morning and the evenings. But the question mark comes on then to the water companies themselves. Thames Water, also one of the companies who said in a few weeks' time we're imposing a hosepipe ban. Well, the question for them is, why is it then that 3 billion litres of water are wasted every day in England and Wales? Questions for the water companies to answer, while these residents have another frustrating day.
Many ordinary people having to, ration their hosepipe usage whilst, as you say, all that leakage is going on. Rosie, good to get your thoughts and have a little look around North End as well. Thank you very much indeed. OK, stay with us. After the break, we'll be going through the papers with David Wooding and Dawn Neeson. Don't go anywhere. See you in a sec.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Well, it's time now to go through the papers, and if you don't know already, we have Dawn Neeson doing that, and we've got David Wooding, and very entertaining they are too. Not a lot of happiness around in the newspapers, as you can imagine, and Dawn, a strike, OK? The posties are going to be striking shortly, and there's so many ballots out, but train strikes and the effect of them, what have you got to say on this
Just when you thought it was safe to go and try and travel somewhere, there is another Network Rail strike this weekend. Parts of the UK will be completely cut off from the rail network as workers at 9 train operators walk out in an ongoing dispute over pay and working conditions. Now, this is this is from The Independent, page 11. They've got a lovely map with lots of red lines showing where you will not be able to travel this weekend. I mean, it's...
I'll tell you another big inconvenience with this. Now that the football season's back again.
Oh, don't. I know. Well, and a lot of the strikes are timed to affect ordinary people. I mean, they time it to affect the Commonwealth Games, didn't they? They've timed it to affect the football season. Now, look, I get everyone has the right to strike. I completely and totally support that. However, the timing is affecting people that they want to support them more, i.e. us lot, isn't it? It's not really affecting the government, which are the people they want to be affecting.
See, I agree with you. I would be very sympathetic to pay and conditions, working hours for a lot of workers, including rail workers there. But you say then, how far can your patience be tested if you're stuck on a hot day and nowhere to go?
And the holiday season, Eamonn. I mean, sort of like people who put off travelling at the very start of the school holidays think, well, we'll leave it because of all the chaos. We'll leave it a week and we'll go away this weekend, and you can't.
My son's going to Newcastle this weekend.
Good luck with that. I hope it's walking.
I'm thinking it's on a red line. No?
It's on a red line.
Everywhere
is on a red line.
Yeah.
Basically, if you want to get anywhere from Scotland to the northeast, to the northwest, to down to Penzance in the West Country, or Norwich up in Norfolk, don't. They're all red lines.
Just stay at home. Marvellous. David, you've chosen a story inside the Mail about diets and how to control your appetite. Pray do tell.
Yes, well, often we're told to ignore hunger pangs if we're on a diet, to override it and just eat a certain way at certain times and at certain portions.
You're very trim. Do you ignore hunger pangs?
Well, yeah, I tend to eat a good square meal once a day. I always have breakfast. I eat a good lunch. I vary it. Sometimes I have egg and toast. Sometimes I have kippers.
Oh, a proper breakfast.
Yeah, and then. But by and large, if I'm dashing out like this morning, I had porridge with a handful of blueberries.
Yum.
So it's no accident you don't have bloat there. You don't have a bulgy
I'm
tummy.
also active, so I go to the
gym. Are you a runner?
I'm a runner.
You look like
I go
a
to the
runner.
gym a couple of times a week, and I go up the stairs rather than I can't wait for the lift to come, so I run up the stairs.
Right, okay.
Anyway, that aside. Okay. We keep being told that many popular diets are grounded in going through certain calories and one thing and another. Well, this says basically, you should let your body tell you when it's time to eat. If you feel hungry, eat. Now, I don't know whether that's a recipe for disaster with you, Eamonn.
I always want to eat.
I never don't want to eat.
If you're always hungry.
I listen to my body. I remind me, if I come back in a second life, I'll be back as a Labrador dog. A dog that will just eat all day, just stand by the fridge and whatever.
You've got the expression there. You've got that expression saying, feed me.
Just want to stroke him as well, don't you?
Where do you stand on a Domino's pizza?
Do you know, pizzas don't agree with me. I always feel very bad when I eat a pizza, that especially the thick-based ones, that you just feel bloated and lack of energy and things like that. I'm not saying...
Not that bad, though. I mean, tell us your Catherine Zeta-Jones story when you went for a...
That's private.
Come on.
It's private.
Oh,
I'm not here to share my friendships.
Sorry. That's when he went for pizza with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
You've got two journalists
I won't tell the whole
two journalists sitting around you here, two gossip mongers.
Okay, all right, private story. Anyway,
highly trained professionals, if you please.
Eamonn's with the Italians, though. Domino's is no good.
Exactly. This is page 11 of the Daily Mail. It's in quite a few papers.
I love this story.
I love this story as well. Not suggesting you eat pizza for breakfast, obviously. US chain Domino's has admitted failure in its attempt to conquer Italy and has said a hasty arrivederci after spending 7 years trying to persuade Romans and Neapolitans that American pizza toppings, such as pineapple, were not a sacrilege. They've closed all 29 of their Italian stores, basically. Now, the real story behind this is the franchise holder in Italy actually went bankrupt.
Right.
But it's actually a bit of... So, therefore, they closed all the stores down. But it's also a bit of fun, isn't it? Because, as we all know, the Italians are very... What's the word? Precious, possibly?
Particular.
Sensitive, caring, very in touch with their pizzas. And they do...
Latin.
Yeah, they do very, very proper pizzas, whereas the Americans just stick anything on it, and then they do the stuffed crusts, and it's like, so you've got loads of meat on it, and the Italians do a nice bit of sort of...
I mean, you just go to any corner shop in Italy and you can buy a slice of pizza, and it's the most incredible thing you've ever eaten in your life. Yeah. And not to do Domino's down, it has a roll, usually on a horrendous hangover, but apart from that, I don't think it's usually, gourmet.
Yeah, no, it's
they say in this piece, don't they, that most of them were ordered by drunk Americans who are on holiday in Italy anyway.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Right, OK, David, you've chosen this story, and I saw it in the papers this morning. Big, cuddly teddy bear was found by the police, and then they realised that this teddy bear was breathing.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, a giant teddy bear sitting in the armchair. They'd raided a house to try and catch a car thief, a serial car thief, it turns out, and they'd gone and raided his girlfriend's house, and she said he wasn't at home. And then they looked at the big teddy bear sitting in the armchair, and it appeared to be breathing. And what he'd done is
scary.
He'd cut a hole in the bum of the teddy bear
and
jumped inside and was hiding inside the teddy bear.
Genius.
So now it's not a teddy bear that he's inside, but a cell.
Because see what you did. He's inside.
He's inside. He's really inside.
How was he breathing? I mean, how was he breathing? I know.
Well, it was inhaling and exhaling inside his teddy bear suit.
He had a bear's head over his head.
No, I'm assuming
he might have gone in backwards. Well, he cut a hole in his
breathing
bottom.
out the bottom.
Breathing out the bottom.
God.
That's what he could have been doing. So
we've overthought this story, haven't we, slightly?
Right, OK, but let's talk about, from bears, let's go to dogs again, and they're very, very good at getting people dates, apparently.
Yeah, I know. I've picked this one because I know you love your doggy. This is basically, it's a survey done in Spain, by the way, 300 women. And if you're looking for love, dog size matters. And there was me thinking it was the size of your possibly bank balance, I was going to say that. But no, it's dog size. So basically, the smaller the dog you have, if you're a chap out walking your dog, the smaller the dog and the cuter the dog, women perceive you to be less threatening and less aggressive. I mean, it's common sense.
Yes, common sense.
Now, of course, it's common sense. So if you've got a small, cute dog, women will feel more kindly towards you rather than a great big Rottweiler on a chain or something.
But also a tiny dog makes people laugh. It makes them funny, and they see it as a sort of, what's the word you use, Isabel, when they human characteristics?
Anthropomorphized.
Anthropomorphized.
Yeah, what she said.
So it's like when you look at an animal and you see its humanistic character, even though it's not human, people often say, "Oh, look, bless it."
Right. So they project that onto the owner.
Yes.
Okay. But interesting, this survey also did say that even a big, aggressive-looking dog was more welcoming to a woman walking alone at night than a man walking on his own.
Yes.
So women always feel more comfortable when they're, you know, walking and there happens to be a man coming in the opposite direction with a dog, no matter what size dog it is.
I think there's something wrong with me when I just think all the criminals are going to start buying little dogs now to, you know.
Yeah.
Stop telling everyone.
And all those predatory men will be going out and buying a little Shih Tzu or something. Look at me.
Just like all, you know, you tell your kids, don't go and talk to a man who's offering you sweets. Now don't talk to a man who's got a small dog.
Yeah.
Even if he looks
my granddaughter,
non-threatening.
I think, yes, she is so cute, but the problem is she hates me. Right, that's the thing. So the thing is, she's a year old. Do you know where you've got these pictures when you were a kid and you used to go and see Santa, and you sit on Santa's knee,
God, yes.
and everybody's going,
yes,
everybody's crying.
Yeah,
that's my granddaughter with me.
No, it's strange at age. I told you this happens at this specific age, and you get so hurt by it. And my kids did the same thing to their grandparents. They suddenly around 9 to 12 months. No, it won't be just you. It will be people that she's not familiar with on a daily basis. But she'll come round and she'll soon realise that grandpa or granddad or whatever you are is the best in the biz. Trust me, it happens.
Am I threatening?
No, you're gorgeous. My children adore you. My children adore you. So don't worry. It's just this age. And my children did it with grandparents. They do. It's a clingy stage.
I find you quite threatening, to be honest.
Do you have any of those pictures, having gone to the co-op or whatever to see Santa?
Yes.
You know, and you're
my
crying,
little
screaming.
sister, and she was dressed up in one of those back in the 60s when you put kids in the she looked like a snowball. And she's sitting on this weird man's lap looking very terrified. And all you can see is this little face looking absolutely terrified.
Yes,
but she's dressed as a snowball.
Yeah.
It's a really weird image.
Because they had pom-poms in those days, didn't they? Little furry hoods and things.
Yeah, that's what she looked like. Yeah.
Pom-poms, her gloves, everything.
So she was sitting on Santa, and there was a suspicious elf in the background as well.
Yes.
Suspicious elf, nothing worse.
Doubly terrified.
Here comes your suspicious grandpapa now, looking like an elf or Santa.
It's a phase. It's a phase.
Nice try, Isabel.
I'm telling you.
Here's the thing, David. Right, so I'm sure this is true, right? Because I read on my Instagram one night ages ago, that if you lie on your left-hand side when you go to bed, you're in for trouble because you will want to wee. Right? As soon as you won't get much time. You go to sleep lying on your left-hand side, and you'll start jigging about that you want to go and have a wee. So it depends what side of your body, left or right. So what have you come up with here? This is in the Telegraph.
This is the Telegraph. The story is that if you lie on your right-hand side and you're taking plain relief, then the pills work quicker. Now, when I saw the headline on this, I thought it was because it gets into your heart quicker. But apparently, on the right-hand side of your stomach is where the grinding and the churning happens. So it's also close to the exit to the intestine. So it gets it through your system a lot quicker, apparently.
Yeah.
So it's not just a case of when you take it, or if you take it with food or without food or whatever is a recommended way to take it. But they should be telling you as well to lie on your side and you get a quicker hit.
Yeah, well, that's top
tip. That's quite a good tip for people who are on pain relief.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that, depending what side you lie on?
I'm just working my way through a very bad joke about what happens in bed, but I'm not going to go there. Obviously, it's a family broadcast. No, I haven't, to be honest.
The joke now.
Well, I'm not allowed to lie on my back in bed. I'm not allowed to
Snoring?
Snoring.
Yeah.
So if I get woken up in the night...
You get an elbow, lying back. Well, that's top tip as well. Lovely. I've enjoyed this morning. Dawn, David, thank you very much. We've had a giggle. We've done some gloom and doom as well.
I now have an image of Eamonn dressed up as Santa and sitting on his knee, which is slightly worrying.
But this used to be true. Only a number of years ago. The BBC and various other people used to hire me to be Santa at Christmas, right?
Bad Santa.
All staff would come, and they would all,
of this bad
and you would have
Santa.
all these, 27-year-old women or whatever saying, "Oh, can I sit in your knee, Santa? Let me sit in your knee." Now you would think you'd just be arrested for such things, wouldn't you?
Should be.
And some women older than 27 as well.
I'll sit on your knee, love. Don't worry.
Sure. There you go.
Right, thanks,
guys, thank you very much indeed.
you.
The time fast approaching 9:15. Now, very special part of the programme today, and we love doing this. We're not going to tell you who our second People's Champion is.
Well, as you'll know, we've been asking you to send in nominations for the People's Champion Award, and today we meet our most recent winner, who is 29-year-old Brad Hadley from Bridgnorth in Shropshire. Let's take a look at why he was nominated.
My name's Louise, and I would really love to put forward my son Brad for this award. Why? Because after many years of medical issues, We finally realise now he has motor neurone disease. But this hasn't stopped him. He's recently joined the Cavalier Centre, which is a horse riding centre for the disabled. Through this, he has gained 2nd and 5th prizes in the national championships. He also goes every Wednesday to our local car boot, where he sells cakes, which he makes himself, and begs, steals and borrows for tombola prizes. This, to me, just proves that no matter what life can throw at you, if you've got the right mindset, you can do anything. And that's why my son, I think, deserves this award. At the age of 28 years of age, nothing will stop him.
Oh, well done, Brad. Fantastic.
Let's go there. Let's go live via satellite. And we caught up with Brad and his mum, Louise. Here is how they reacted when she gave him the big news.
Brad, you up? Hi, Brad. You know, you were nominated for the People's Award. Well, guess what? You've won it! Oh! I'm so pleased. Oh! Well done. Well done. Don't matter. You deserve it.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
So proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Well done. Oh, I don't know who's more nervous, me or you.
Does that mean not Monia?
Yeah, sorry. Oh. Yeah, you're gonna have to speak to Eamonn. Yeah, it's live now. So, yeah, well done. Don't look like that, Brad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, look, we thought we'd give Brad enough time to get his trousers on, get his pants on.
Turn off the sport. He was watching Paul Coit there.
Get out of bed. and let's go to Brad and Mum Louise, who made the nomination. Guys, good morning to you. Lovely.
Good morning.
Lovely to see you both.
Good morning.
Look, you know, we're just chuffed. We're over the bits, over the moon.
Oh, hang on. Say that again, Brad.
As you can tell, I was shocked.
Yes. Very shocked. Very, very shocked. Fantastic.
Well, we're absolutely delighted. The sun's come out to play. Sun's shining on you all and both. And Brad, Louise, Mum has told us all about you. Can you tell us a bit about your mum?
Yeah, so she's...
Careful, Brad.
She's just great. I'm really, really lucky to have a really supportive and great family. They always back me 100%. So, yeah, she's just incredible.
And what does it mean to you, well, to both of you, really, as a tribute to both of you, let's be honest, because, you know, your mum does a lot to support you. I know that's the case. What does it mean to get the nomination and to get the award? Because, you know, it's time, isn't it, that we shine a light on these kinds of positive stories, positive attitudes and you know, getting on with what's been a tough card to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. Well, when I first got diagnosed, I've had issues for quite a long time. When I first got diagnosed back in February, it did knock me for 6 for quite a while. And then I kind of learned that I need to come out the other side of it. And that's why I'm trying to raise as much awareness as possible and obviously raise funds as well. For both the Cavalier Centre, that's the horse riding place I go for. I go twice a week there riding, and that's the school for disabled people to go and just to ride, or they can vault, or they can carriage drive. And also, obviously, for the MND Association, which have been such a support to me, yeah.
Louise, tell us now about everything that surrounds you there in your little farm. I presume farm's the right description there. We got a glimpse of the horses. What we didn't get is a glimpse of the alpacas, the geese, the goats, the ducks. Have I left anything out?
The ferret, the rabbit, the chinchilla and the hamster.
Can I say, Eamonn, the hamster's named after you.
And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
We've also got a duck. Yeah, we've also got a duck named after Ruth as well. I'm your biggest fan.
I can see that she walks like a duck. I can see that.
Brilliant.
Brad, when you get up in the morning, when you get yourself out of bed and when you look around, what's it like? I mean, bearing in mind what you've got to go through with your new diagnosis of motor neurone, are all these animals, are they helpful to you? Are they a distraction to you? Are they like therapy to you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so my brother bought this house last year. My mum's health took a turn for the worse last year. Obviously, I've had this new diagnosis. So we're all together down on the farm, and I just find animals really calming. Same as the horses at the Cavalier Centre. They're just really calming, they really help. And they just give you a positive outlook on life. So whenever you're struggling or whenever you're going through bad times, you just go out here and you just realise how lucky you are. Do you know what I mean? And to be honest, since the diagnosis, I'm happier than ever.
Wow.
It just puts everything into perspective and it makes you realise what's important.
Brad, what an amazing man. And, you know, in between having to go off and doing these car boot sales and raising money for MND and making the cakes yourself and then helping people with disabilities horse riding, you're also doing some fundraising with a skydive coming up as well, which is no mean feat considering that you're using a wheelchair these days.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. So that was just a spur of the moment thing. I organised that a couple of months ago. So yeah, that's due to be in September. So the whole point of all of what I do is to obviously try and raise money, and I have got a Just Giving page if you'd be kind enough to let me show the link. I might as well put a plug in while I can.
Well, we'd be thrilled to do that, and I'll try and put it on my social media as well a little bit later on, because any opportunity to raise money for MND, something that you know all about at Motor Neurone, we're very happy to do that. Absolutely no problem.
Now, Brad, you're the man, you're the centre of attention. But what's that? You've got what's that?
Oh, that's his link. Don't worry, I'll make sure we get that out there.
Fundraising link. Yeah.
See, although you should be the centre of attention, your microphone's not working too well, but Mum's is working brilliantly. Or maybe she doesn't need a microphone, I'm not really sure there. But certainly you've got great personality.
Careful, Eamonn.
You've got a great personality and your son's inherited it from you, Louise. Thank you very much. Guys, it's been a joy.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
No, thank you for not only the nomination, thank you for introducing us to Brad, and thank you for letting us into your home.
Eamonn, can you just say hello to your wife for me? I'm a really big fan. All right.
Of my wife.
He's surprised.
Of my wife? You're a fan of my wife?
Yeah.
Not my TV wife, my real wife.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Just don't think.
Oh, both, but your real wife, yeah. I watch her on QVC and everything.
I'm a big fan.
Oh, gosh.
I have to admit, Brad, I'm a big fan of Ruthie's as well.
You know
She's
what?
fantastic.
We should get her down to get a ride on a horse. She's scared stiff of horses, so that would be quite good.
It'd be my honour.
Yeah, Ruth the Duck as well.
Got two, yes.
Yes, Ruth the Duck.
Come and walk the alpacas as well, they'll love it.
We've got a programme to run here. Will you go away, you two?
Sorry.
Brad Hadley. He is our second People's Champion. Thank you very much indeed, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Now,
we're going to go to medical matters.
Yeah,
now.
health matters, I suppose, good way to link into this, because children aged 1 to 9, so anyone under 10 and living in Greater London is being urgently offered a polio vaccine after the virus has been detected in sewage water.
Now, this can cause paralysis. It's been found 116 times in wastewater in London since February.
Well, here's the former Chief Medical Officer of Bupa, Dr Andrew Vallance-Owen.
We've got in the sewage water is in the actual virus is out in the sewage water, which is fine normally because people have been vaccinated, but because there's been a drop-off in vaccination and we're now seeing it back in the country for the first time since 1984 was our last case, there's a real worry. Because the inactivated virus can actually change into the full virus, and that's what we're seeing with some of these samples. Most of it's just sort of the normal inactivated version, but now we're seeing some live samples, and therefore it's being taken really seriously.
So serious now that the JCVI got involved, the Joint Committee Vaccination Immunisation, and they're saying that even if you've got children under 9 who are fully vaccinated, they should get this booster.
Yeah.
So you're saying, you know, it's not a case of people not coming forward for the vaccine now. They might have done everything that they were supposed to do as responsible parents, and their children could still be at risk.
They should still very much go and get that booster. And we are under-vaccinated, actually, anyway. But so even if you've had the full set of vaccines, you know, about 5 you're having in your childhood, you should go and get the booster.
So if we as a country are doing all we can do, and we've issued these this advice warnings to get this done, should this be a joined-up policy? I mean, should this happen Europe-wide, worldwide? I mean, when you say it's coming into the country, it's coming in from where, do you think, Doctor?
Well, the places where they are still using the live vaccine are basically Pakistan, Nigeria, Afghanistan. They're using that there to vaccinate the kids. We stopped using that back in 1984 because of this danger that you might get the live vaccine into the system. So it looks like it's come from there, and there seems to be sort of areas where it's in the population. Normally, polio, it doesn't cause many problems at all. I mean, it's just like flu. You get headaches, neck stiffness, temperature. Like other things we know, like COVID, and
so many things start like that.
You know, so people probably haven't realised they've got this benign version. But we're now seeing, as I say, the more serious version, and you can get paralysis. I mean, my mother was one of the last people in 1957 to get polio.
Yeah.
She was away for 6 months, came back in a wheelchair, and spent the rest of her life disabled. It's a serious illness.
But
serious illness.
But Andrew, you may, like me, remember. I'm sorry to hear about your mum. And obviously it's very personal to you then, this whole campaign. But I remember being at school, and I think we got our vaccination on a sugar lump or something like that. But we remember seeing people who were in calipers or wheelchairs or whatever. So in the 60s, it wasn't uncommon to see the side effects of polio.
I gather there are still about 120,000 people in the country who still have the effects of polio. That sugar lump you were talking about was the live vaccine. We were all being given that live vaccine, attenuated or weakened vaccine. It was only when we realised the problems with it that they went back to the injections again to avoid that problem, which has now come in, we think, from outside the country.
Right. Now, that's a really important point. So should parents have any concerns about the safety of the vaccine?
Not at all. No, this vaccine has been proved effective. This is the one which really was the first one that was discovered back in 1956. It almost eradicated polio around the whole world. The slightly less safe one has been very effective as well, but it has these side effects.
OK, you were listening to and watching Dr. Andrew Vallance-Owen. He's the former head of the private medical company Bupa, and basically he's saying, you know, if you're in the London area, you'd be wise to get that vaccination if your child is under 9.
We're going to take a break. After that, we're speaking to the mother of a boy who was murdered after being groomed online, and asking if more education is needed when it comes to internet safety.
Here's your weather picture for the day.
Hello, a very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn McGivern from the Met Office. Another hot and sunny day for the vast majority. Warm again tonight, but there is one exception. There will be continued rain in the far north of Scotland, over the Northern Isles, the Outer Hebrides, parts of the north mainland of Scotland, affected by a weather front which is just lingering here. That is draped around an area of high pressure which is bringing clear skies virtually across the whole of the UK. Some early mist patches in the east of England clearing away, and then sunny skies effectively for England, Wales, for Northern Ireland and for most of Scotland away from the far north and northwest. But even here, the rain will tend to ease later in the day. Staying breezy and on the cool side in the north of Scotland, 15 or 16 Celsius. Otherwise, 30 Celsius possible in the east of Scotland, 27 for Belfast, low 30s for much of England and Wales. 33 Celsius, I think, the peak temperature somewhere across central parts of England. Then into Thursday night, it stays very warm. In fact, it's a warmer night to come. Again, a few mist patches in the east of England and some of this thicker cloud for the north of Scotland. 11 to 12 Celsius in the north of Scotland, 13 through central Scotland, Northern Ireland, 18 or 19 Celsius for parts of England and Wales. where it will feel very uncomfortable, I think, in places for sleeping, particularly main urban centres. But it's a warm start to Friday, a sunny start for the vast majority as well. Some low cloud and mist will hug the coasts of eastern Scotland and northeast England. That will make it feel much cooler on the immediate coasts here. But otherwise, temperatures are rising day by day. 34 or 35 Celsius across central parts of England. Cooler there for the north and northwest of Scotland, where there will be continued cloud. But otherwise, the sunshine continues into Saturday and even Sunday as well. Temperatures rising up to 35 or 36 Celsius. Cooler next week.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
The government holds crisis talks with energy bosses over soaring bills.
Hello there, good morning. Just talking to our next guest there at the time, just after 9 o'clock, 3 minutes past 9. It is a Thursday morning, it's the 11th of August, breakfast in GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
Here's what's leading the news this morning. Energy executives will be pushed for solutions to skyrocketing energy bills today in a meeting with the Chancellor and the Business Secretary in Downing Street.
Liz Truss has hinted to GB News People's Forum that she would give those struggling with their bills economic relief if she became PM. We're going to be catching up with Alistair Stewart, who hosted the event last night, doing that in about 10 minutes' time.
We'll also be talking about online safety in the next few minutes after a new report finds that children and their parents have important gaps in their knowledge around cyberbullying.
And you can join in any of the discussions. You know what to do, the usual thing, GB Views, GB News, or you can tweet at GB News.
And, well, I was going to say we'll be announcing, but we have just announced our People's Champions, so do keep
That's
sending in those nominations.
That's why I didn't read it.
Oh,
The Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng and the Chancellor Nadim Zahawi are set to hold crisis talks in Downing Street. Now, this is with the bosses of big energy companies, and this is ahead of all the predictions about the rising cost of energy.
So the government will ask executives to submit a breakdown of expected profits, payouts and various investment plans for the next 3 years. And joining us now is the Leader of the House of Commons and the Rishi Sunak supporter, Mark Spencer. Very good morning to you. Look, what do you hope to hear from this summit today? Good morning. We've heard, haven't we, in the last 24 hours that there's going to to be this package of measures announced by the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, which Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss will both be briefed on. But presumably this will also be informed by how this summit goes this morning.
Yeah, so I think it's right that we're facing a global challenge. It's right that the government brings all of those stakeholders together around the table to say to them, how can you help? How can you help meet this challenge that we face as a United Kingdom?
OK, interesting, though, that the two people, well, one of the people I just mentioned, Kwasi Kwarteng, who is Business Secretary and hosting that meeting, and Simon Clarke, who's Chief Secretary to the Treasury, have both written in the paper this morning. They've accused Rishi Sunak of resisting every attempt to cut Brexit red tape. I mean, the strongest type of blue-on-blue attack that you can get.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to get drawn into that. I think in Rishi, what you saw as Chancellor of the Exchequer was somebody that does step in at the right moments with the right level of support. We saw that in COVID with the furlough scheme. We've seen it with the cost of living challenge that we now face, where the most vulnerable households are now receiving payments. I think they've had £130 in the last fortnight. There's another payment to come. There's the £400 rebate, which has been organised, which is no longer required to be repaid. So I think that's a huge amount of support offered by the government and by Rishi when he was Chancellor of the Exchequer.
There have been criticisms, indeed, we've been speaking to people about it this morning, about the £400 that was announced back in May as part of this £15 billion package that he oversaw, that this is going to every single household, and actually it'd be a much better use of money if this was targeted to those who are really struggling, perhaps at the lower end of the scale when it comes to wages. And the fear is that if you're giving £400 out to everybody, that's actually inflationary.
Well, so clearly everybody is facing this challenge in terms of their energy bills going up. But what you have seen in terms of the package introduced by Rishi is that focus. So the £400 goes to every household, but there are a number of other measures which are specifically focused at the most vulnerable and those that are right at the bottom end of those pay scales. And I think that's the right method, that's the right operation to deliver, and that's what we're seeing.
And I just want to, pick up on those comments you made about how you didn't want to get drawn into Kwasi Kwarteng and Simon Clarke's negative comments about Rishi Sunak. But Rishi Sunak's been making his own negative comments as well, and lots of the papers quoting today how he said he'd rather lose the Tory leadership race than win on a false promise. So not only does he perhaps think he might be losing, do you think, but he's also accusing Liz Truss of lying.
No, that's not true. What Rishi's saying is that he wants to have an honest conversation with the electorate and with the country. He wants to set out honestly the challenges that we face. There are huge global challenges coming our way. He wants to have that honest conversation and be open about the challenge that we face. And that's him setting out what he sees coming down the track and how he would deal with those challenges.
OK, just finally, we're almost out of time, but I want to ask you about a picture that, again, is in a lot of the papers this morning. And this is a picture of Rishi Sunak, who you are supporting's shoe, the sole of his shoe. I don't know if we can see that zoomed in on the screen. A giant hole on the sole of his shoe there. And this is a man whose personal wealth is £730 million. That's more than Her Majesty the Queen. He's been criticised a lot for the value of his Prada shoes. Is that why he's wearing these shoes with holes in then? Is this all optics?
No, I think he probably just needs a trip to Timson's pretty quick to sort that out, and I shall pass on the number to him.
Good stuff. Mark Spencer, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We're now going to talk about a new report out which warns that children and parents both have important gaps in their knowledge about what goes on in the cyber world, cyberbullying in particular. It says that more than half of children in Britain have suffered some form of cyberbullying, and that more needs to be done to identify who is vulnerable. Well, the Breck Foundation is a charity founded by Lauren Lafave, who, after the tragic loss of her 14-year-old son 8 years ago, Breck, in 2014, through online grooming, is here to talk about this. Lauren, first of all, sorry for your loss. I know 8 years have passed, but it must seem like yesterday to you. Every day you must be reminded of it.
It's still hard.
Yeah.
It is.
When we say Breck and we talk about him about grooming, what do you mean by grooming? Can you describe to us?
Well, whilst he was gaming with friends from school,
he was introduced to the groomer, who built friendships through their shared interests, and he manipulated and controlled the boys, and bullied them as well. If they didn't do what he said, if they didn't believe or talk the way he wanted them to talk, he would kick or ban them off the site.
So what is this? So is this criminal? Is this sexual? Is this what?
Well, initially, when the grooming, I recognized that grooming was happening, but I didn't know enough about it, and I didn't know what the ultimate sort of motive was. Originally, I thought sexual. I then thought radicalization. I thought maybe he was just going to teach them to hack and, do something illegal. But I sensed from the start that this was a predatory relationship.
And how did you pick up on that? Because so often, and so many parents will relate to this, and it's no criticism of any parents, kids are off gaming for hours. Parents don't understand what the game means or what the kids are up to. How did you detect that something underhand was going on?
Well, I think it's really difficult, but I initially noticed the voice that sounded older. With Breck being 14 years old, it sounded like he was speaking to an adult, and I didn't want my child hanging out with an adult online or at the park. And so when I questioned Breck, he said, oh, he's 17, he leads the gaming. But it was the conversations, it just sounded like the predator had all the power. It didn't sound like an equal relationship, and that was the first thing that made me worry.
Lauren, though, when you talk about teenagers today, the perception is they're savvy, they're more advanced than we were at their age, and that sort of thing. And indeed, Breck had undergone an internet safety assembly. I think that was at school as well. So you think, well, would he not have been aware?
Well, there's a couple of things here. Our children are very tech savvy, but that doesn't mean they're relationship savvy. So they understand the technology, but do they understand, relationships? We look as adults, we sometimes don't get relationships right. And I think that's one of the problems. But also he had this assembly and it wasn't engaging, it wasn't interesting. It was a bunch of rules and things that they couldn't do. And none of the young people want to listen to that. It feels like nagging, like a parent or, So I think what's really important and what we try to do with the Breck Foundation is to make it more interesting and engaging, more like a workshop where the young people are involved and using real life stories, not just Breck's, but other young people too, who have, learned the hard way, not necessarily in such an extreme example.
If it's not too painful, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but can you just tell us what happened? Because this assembly he went to warned of these harms. He was in this gaming group, but what happened to him?
Well, yeah, I mean, literally, even the day he came home from the assembly and I asked him how it went, because we had these, issues with me being concerned, he rolled his eyes and said, oh, Mom, it's so boring. He was just bored. And another point to that is his friends were bored as well in this assembly. It's so key that the friends actually have the same knowledge as our children so that if they recognize something, they can report and, send off, an alarm if they're concerned. So Breck was befriended. A lot of boys around the country actually were befriended by this predator as well. And he focused on different boys, building relationships, teaching them. He was a mentor. They learned so much from him. Breck would say he learned more from the predator than he learned at school about technology and gaming. And he was just enthralled, looked up to him, almost like a celebrity or someone, that you really, believe in. And unfortunately, I was just the mom who had rules. And as much as Breck and I had a great relationship, he didn't see the dangers. So eventually, he was lured to the predator's flat with hopes of talking about an upcoming business that they were going to work on together, as well as game, as well as hang out, because he considered him a real friend. And Breck had plenty of friends at school, but this friend, they had these special sort of bonds. And unfortunately, Breck never came home. And I just, my nightmare is, I couldn't be there. I couldn't, rush through the door and save him.
The predator, who did he turn out to be? What happened to him? Has he been convicted of Breck's murder?
He has a life sentence, Louis Daines, or Joshua Price, as he calls himself. But he got a 25-year sentence, but he'll never... He's not sorry, so we don't even know why he did it. I think he had some, psychotic tendencies, And so I know this is an extreme example, and so parents sometimes think, oh, well, that would never happen to my child. I never thought something like this would happen. I was concerned that Breck was going to be groomed for something much more low level than sexual assault and murder. So I think what's really important with all of these safety issues is our children's mental health. And even though, luckily not that many children will have, Breck's sort of outcome, well, there's still mental health issues of loss of self-esteem, being tricked or abused, feeling worthless. And I think these long-term effects are so important.
You're so strong, you're so amazing, and I can see the pain in you, and what you're doing is absolutely incredible, the way that you are turning your grief, because I know that you've suffered immensely in the wake of this. It's ruined your life in many ways. You felt guilty about being happy for so long.
Absolutely. You can't ever be the same person that you will. And I'm so lucky. I mean, I have triplets who are amazing at uni, and a husband who's very supportive. And, people in the community and friends have supported over the years. But at the end of the day, you feel a bit lonely because you just miss what you've lost. And I miss the potential that he had. He was the kind of boy, he wanted to be a pilot. He wouldn't hurt a fly. I wish now I had taught him to be a bully, which, when you think about the whole bullying concept, I would never want my child to be a bully, but I so wish that, but he would have been unaware. He didn't realize that sort of level of evil that there can be.
Thanks to the foundation, what work is your foundation doing now to make sure, hopefully, bring into effect that there would be no more cases like Breck's?
Well, we do try to visit as many schools, pupils, and parents. It's so important that the parents and teachers are aware so that the education is taught in this engaging and interesting way. But we have to get parents to believe. Some just don't want to think about it. Others are so concerned they come to me and they're so worried and don't know, what to do.
But what are the warning signs? When should the alarm bells go off?
Well, I think it's very difficult too when we talk about teenagers and preteens. Some of the signs are normal teenage behavior, but secrecy, trying to hide relationships, trying to hide what they're doing online. I think, we always say these conversations are so important with our children, but especially with this, we have to make sure they understand that we're not going to take away their devices, we're not going to punish them. And I had taken away Breck's devices for a week as a consequence of my concerns, but that fed into the predators,
mind grip on them.
Because then it made me the bad guy.
Yeah.
So, we have to try to make sure we're not the bad guy. I think it's important to use real life stories and say, listen, I know that this boy Breck is an extreme example, and there's so many children that have been hurt online in different ways, using their examples to learn from so that we can keep our children more resilient. And we have to teach them that these things will come their way. Predators, people who want to hurt us, that we actually have to stand up and stand up for our friends. And I think that's really important because a lot of Breck's friends, they were being bullied, they were being groomed as well, but again, they hadn't been taught about what to do. So, they have, we're in the middle of it just as much, but we need to make sure that, society knows how to deal with it.
Well,
you keep on making sure.
The other thing is the online harms bill, which we campaign for, which is so important. And I hope so much that our new leadership will really put the importance on that it needs to make sure that children's online safety is
The online harms
prominent.
bill. Okay. Lauren Lefebvre, thank you very much indeed. She's the founder of the Breck Foundation, founded in memory of her son who was murdered, Breck. And that was 8 years ago, groomed online. As I say, we're really sorry for your loss. Good luck with the foundation.
Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lauren. We're going to take a break. After that, we'll be speaking to Alistair Stewart, who's fresh from our People's Forum last night with Liz Truss. See you in a moment.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh, my goodness. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
The big event on GB News yesterday was the Conservative leadership contender Liz Truss sitting down with her very own Alistair Stewart. It was a GB News exclusive.
Yes, members of the public had the chance to put their questions to the potential future Prime Minister.
Which is not Alistair, incidentally, it's Liz Truss, OK? Let's now go to Alistair, and my friend, plaudits to you for the way you handled last night. It certainly was different, but you got some new answers out of her, didn't you?
Well, I think we did. And the different bit, if I can just underline that, because, you know, you were part of those conversations. What we set out to do from the very beginning was not to have one of those formulaic debates with presenters also trying to become the star of the show. We genuinely wanted to do a people's forum. And Madeline Grant in The Telegraph and Quentin Letts in The Times this morning both say that was the great achievement. We actually heard, like this guy here who kicked the ball rolling and those lovely people in the background, they genuinely had their say to that woman, Liz Truss. And intriguingly, on the way in, 58% were in favour of Liz and 40% were don't know. On the way out, 71% were pro-Liz and it don't know had dropped to 29%. So it worked. Headlines, timing of cuts. Liz said she will help people with the cost of living crisis, but can't guarantee that it will happen before April. That's a long, long time to wait. I think people will want to go back to that. European Convention on Human Rights, she'll try to reform it. If she can't do that, she will revoke it and replace it with a British Bill of Rights. And thirdly, she held the hand of friendship out to Kemi Badenoch. She's already got Tom Tugend out and she's got Penny Mordaunt in her team. She's saying, come on board, Kemi, let's make it 3 out of 3.
Alistair, you also got new lines out of her on the online harms bill. And I don't know if you were able to hear any of that previous interview. Really compelling story and tragic story of a mother who lost her teenage son in a terrible online grooming situation. What was Liz Truss saying about that last night?
Well, basically, she was very, very pro-freedom of speech, and she completely rejected the idea that things that are genuinely harmful might be OK online, but are not OK out in the real world. And I think it's been a huge debate on GB News in all of our programmes, and Tom Harwood wrote a really good bit about it last night. I mean, I think, as with many things, there are still 3.5 weeks to go. She's going to revert to that and spell out in more precise detail what her proposals would be to protect exactly people like those that you've just been talking to this morning. The benefit of these discussions, particularly where she hears directly from the public rather than opinion formers, is she hears what concerns them. And she will take that on board and she will seek to act upon it. But I thought she did come out more clearly than ever. And I've always known that she's quite a big freedom of speech person. But she came out more clearly than ever about the protection of people from the nonsense that does go on online.
When we spoke to Liz Truss a couple of weeks ago, obviously we spoke to her about all the serious stuff, but one of the things that stuck with us is how she loved karaoke. What was her favourite hit, the Whitney song?
I want to dance with somebody.
I want to dance with somebody. And what I loved last night was the news that she told us about how Larry the cat likes her the most out of all the cabinet. That was brilliant.
I thought it was superb. And again, I'm delighted to say, because I introed it saying to Liz, look, I'm not going to ask you any of those daft questions about what's the naughtiest thing you've ever done or what have you. But you're right, whether it's karaoke or pussycats, sometimes it yields great answers. And that question came from a viewer called Mel. Mel wanted to know how you're going to get on. And also, she said that there used to be a cat in the Foreign Office, she's Foreign Secretary right now, called Palmerston, but Palmerston has gone off to attend to other duties, apparently. But he did. I thought it was brilliantly political. She said, I am actually one of Larry's favourite members of the cabinet. So when I go in, the cat side, and I don't know if you're cat lovers and owners. We are. Sally and I have got Daisy.
Cat lover.
And you know exactly what she was talking about. It's true of cats and dogs. They'll walk into a room and a dog will go over everybody. A cat will look and say, okay, Izzy, I'm with you. Eamonn, sorry, buddy. And I just thought she talked to pet owners, which was clever, but she also kind of painted a picture of cabinet meetings and going into number 10 that so many pet lovers will immediately associate with.
Absolutely.
Well, she'd be like the cat that got the cream this morning then after that. Alistair, thank you.
From the newspapers, I tell you, I think she should be a happy bunny from the newspapers. I think she does come out of it well. And final quick one, because I know you're up against the clock, but I said it on air last night and I'll say it again now. I like politicians who occasionally will say, I can't give you what you want. And that's what she said on the WASPy women. And I know you were talking about that earlier on. So many of them just say, oh, yeah, well, I'll have another look at it. Oh, yeah, I'll try. But she said, nope, we've looked at it. We can't do that. We now move on.
Yeah.
But the war widows, I think they maybe get some good news if she wins.
Yeah, and that's something we've been featuring on the programme here. Alistair, lots of positive comments about Liz Truss in the papers after that last night, and also about you, and deservedly so. Good to talk to you. Thank you.
We'd love to talk about those, but we have got to move on too. All the best, Alistair. Thank you very much indeed. So that's it from Isabel and myself. I'll see you bright and early Monday morning. Who's on tomorrow? Stephen Land?
It's Stephen Hunt tomorrow, and Tom Harwood up next.
Have yourself a good day. Enjoy the sun.
Hello, a very good morning to you. I'm Aidan McGivern from the Met Office. Another hot and sunny day for the vast majority. Warm again tonight, but there is one exception. There will be continued rain in the far north of Scotland, over the Northern Isles, the Outer Hebrides, parts of the North mainland of Scotland, affected by a weather front which is just lingering here. That is draped around an area of high pressure which is bringing clear skies virtually across the whole of the UK. Some early mist patches in the east of England clearing away, and then sunny skies effectively for England, Wales, for Northern Ireland, and for most of Scotland away from the far north and northwest. But even here, the rain will tend to ease later in the day. Staying breezy and on the cool side in the north of Scotland, 15 or 16 Celsius. Otherwise, 30 Celsius possible in the east of Scotland, 27 for Belfast, low 30s for much of England and Wales. 33 Celsius, I think, the peak temperature somewhere across central parts of England. Then into Thursday night, it stays very warm. In fact, it's a warmer night to come. Again, a few mist patches in the east of England and some of this thicker cloud for the north of Scotland. 11 to 12 Celsius in the north of Scotland, 13 through central Scotland, Northern Ireland, 18 or 19 Celsius for parts of England and Wales, where it will feel very uncomfortable, I think, in places for sleeping, particularly main urban centres. But it's a warm start to Friday, a sunny start for the vast majority as well. Some low cloud and mist will hug the coasts of eastern Scotland and northeast England. That will make it feel much cooler on the immediate coasts here. But otherwise, temperatures are rising day by day. 34 or 35 Celsius across central parts of England. Cooler there for the north and northwest of Scotland, where there will be continued cloud. But otherwise, the sunshine continues into Saturday and even Sunday as well. Temperatures rising up to 35 or 36 Celsius. Cooler next week.
Tonight on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton, joined